Chapter 3580. Under Niu Jianhua's lead, Ling Han and Xiao Zhishuan did not need to act. This show-loving fellow had already rushed to the front. With tens of thousands of secret realm cultivators here, there were naturally crooks and dragons mixed together. There were outstanding geniuses, and there were also lucky ones who relied on treasured fruits to ascend overnight. Naturally, their strength could not be compared in the same breath. Niu Jianhua's strength could not be underestimated. He was the most beloved descendant of true Lord Spirit transformation, so he had naturally received careful guidance from a young age. One had to know that he was still a young chick. Just from this point alone, it could be seen how strict his education was. Amidst the flaming palms, he had no opponents, displaying the strength of a one-star genius. Even Xiao Zhishuan was somewhat moved. She did not think that this spoiled brat who tried so hard to please her would actually have real skills. She had a whole new level of respect for him. She had misjudged him. This was a genius. Niu Jianhua naturally noticed the subtle change in Xiao Zhishuan and could not help but feel proud. With his identity, it was naturally impossible for him to marry a native of a backwater land. Therefore, don't be fooled by his eagerness towards Xiao Zhishuan. It was completely because he was a greenhorn in this aspect and was still fresh. Once he really got his hands on her, his attitude would definitely change 180 degrees. Previously, you put on airs and acted all high and mighty. Once I get my hands on you, I will naturally throw you away. This young master is not someone you can reach. Now, it had become a hunting ground for the strong. The weak would either be killed or find a place to hide. Most of them had escaped from the mountain area and automatically forfeited. Although it was a mountain, it was barren and there weren't many places to hide. Therefore, many people were easily discovered after hiding and were slaughtered. Ling Han could not help but frown. Was this a martial arts competition or a killing competition? Those who came out of the cage indeed did not care about human lives. 2 hours passed, and the number of people on the mountain had decreased to a few hundred. Moreover, very few dared to act tyrannically. Most of them were still hiding, hoping to luckily enter the top 32 and enter the archaic sect. Xiao, a figure, flew down and stood in front of Ling Han and the others. This was a gloomy-looking young man. He held a sword in his hand, and his eyes were bright. He pointed his sword at the group and said, "Either die or scram." Niu Jianhua laughed heartily. In this world, there is no one who is qualified to tell this young master to scram. This act of acting tough caused Xiao Zhixian's beautiful eyes to light up, and she felt that Niu Jianhua could be relied on. The young man sneered, "Looks like you don't want to live anymore." He flew out and slashed with his sword. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Sword chi crisscrossed, mixed with an ice-cold aura, causing one's blood to freeze. "You're the one who's courting death." Niu Jianhua charged forward, unleashing his flame palm arts. One was water, one was fire, one was cold, one was hot. They both countered each other, and it all depended on who was stronger. After exchanging a few moves, the young man showed signs of being defeated and quickly withdrew his sword. "You still want to run?" Niu Jianhua sneered and exerted force with his feet, blocking the other party. The young man gritted his teeth and said, "I am Lu Huaming, and my older brother is Lu Huayan. Do you want to become enemies with my older brother?" Lu Huaming, Lu Huayan, they're just trash in front of me. Niu Jianhua naturally didn't care. He was the descendant of perfected spirit transformation, so he didn't need to care about anyone on this backward planet. His palm struck out mercilessly. Peng, Lu Huaming was instantly severely injured. "Lu Huayun," Xiao Zhixian exclaimed, You've caused a huge disaster." "What's so great about Lu Huayan?" Niu Jianhua asked indifferently. The father of the Lu family's brother is a life core cultivator. As for Lu Huayan, he is known as one of the top 10 in the mystery realm. Xiao Zhixian's face was a little ugly. She had seriously injured Lu Huayan's brother, and she believed that Lu Huayan would soon come for revenge. "Don't worry, I'm here," Niu Jianhua said domineeringly. "A mere Xingdan stage. Hee, the Niu clan has a few true self-realm old servants. What is a life Dan realm?" However, in the end he did not add another palm strike to end Lu Huaming's life. No matter what, This was not the victorious planet, nor was it the Star Dragon sect. It was a faraway place in the starry sky, so he decided to restrain himself and keep a low profile. "Let's go!" He waved his hand and strode off. After the three of them left, Lu Huaming immediately sent out a signal flare. After a short while, a man who looked almost identical to him appeared. "Lu Huayun, they were twin brothers." "Who injured you?" Lu Huayun's eyes were spitting fire. He especially doted on this twin brother of his. Lu Huaming hurriedly described Niu Jianhua's appearance, and also said that the other party had two companions, a man and a woman. Lu Huayun immediately chased after them. Who dared to injure his brother? Lu Huayun wholeheartedly chased after the enemy, and no matter what he encountered, he did not stop. Thus, in less than 10 minutes, he had caught up to Ling Han and the others. "But you injured my brother?" he asked Niu Jianhua. Niu Jianhua couldn't help but smile. "And here I thought that weakling had eaten some divine pill or immortal medicine to recover so quickly. So you're his older brother? What, you want to take revenge for him? Kneel down. First break your own legs, then your own arm, and I'll let you keep one arm." Lu Huayun arrogantly said, then looked at Ling Han and Xiao Zhishuan. "You saw my brother injured, and you didn't even help him. You even abandoned him. You can break your own arms as well. Damn, this domineering and confident person. Did he really think he was the king of heaven?" Ling Han shook his head and smiled. "I'm really sorry. When we saw your brother injured, we didn't rush up to help. Next time, we'll definitely pay attention and make sure he gets even more injured." When Lu Huayun heard that, he naturally flew into a rage. His eyes were about to spit fire. "Brat, how dare you? Of course, who asked this young Master Niu to block in front of us?" Ling Han pointed at Niu Jianhua, not minding drawing more hatred to him. As expected, Lu Huayun's hatred was shifted. He looked at Niu Jianhua and said coldly, "Looks like I'll have to take you down first to warn the others." "Where does your confidence come from?" Niu Jianhua said arrogantly. He was confident that he was invincible among those of the same level. "Then come and try." Lu Huayun attacked, and as he punched out, a cold aura appeared. The two brothers cultivated the same spirit diagram. They were both connected to the ice element. "I'll beat you up." Niu Jianhua smiled and sent out a palm that was surrounded by raging flames. This was the collision of ice and fire. Bang, the fist and palm collided. The raging flames and ice collided, each occupying half of the sky. Niu Jianhua revealed a look of shock. He had actually been blocked. How was this possible? Could there be a one-star genius on this planet? No wonder you're so arrogant. So you have some strength. Lu Huayun didn't dare to underestimate him. He roared and sent out a barrage of attacks. Chapter 3581. No matter where one went, one-star geniuses were extremely rare. They would be recruited by various factions. Now that two one-star geniuses had appeared, it would naturally be a fierce battle. Originally, one-star geniuses would only meet in the top 32, or even the top 16, or even the top 8. But because of the rules of the competition, two young geniuses had met each other so early. When two tigers fought, one would definitely be injured. Ling Han was in high spirits. He sat at the side and watched. Since he had nothing to do, he might as well kill some time. Seeing Ling Han like this, Xiao Zhixian was completely speechless. "Why are you in such a good mood?" That was Lu Huayun. If Niu Jianhua couldn't hold on, would the two of them be spared? She wanted to rush up and give Ling Han a few slaps to make him see reality. Niu Jianhua and Lu Huayun's battle was extremely intense. Both of them exchanged blows, displaying their full strength. But even if they were both one-star geniuses, there was still a difference in strength. It was just that the difference was extremely small. Lu Huayun was stronger. Niu Jianhua was extremely gloomy. If he hadn't been beaten up and robbed, then as long as he wore a set of battle armor, he would be invincible. Only he would be able to abuse Lu Huayun. That damned thief, don't let him catch you." Lu Huayun, on the other hand, sneered. In fact, he was not as talented as Niu Jianhua, but he had stayed in the mystery realm for a longer time and perfected his cultivation base. Therefore, after a long battle, His advantage was slowly revealed, and it was getting bigger and bigger. He was definitely going to win this battle. You two, hurry up and leave. Niu Jianhua roared and immediately turned to run. You told us to run? Why didn't you buy us some time? Xiao Zhixian was tongue-tied. She knew that a spoiled brat like Niu Jianhua was unreliable, but she didn't expect him to be this unreliable. This was too shameless. But Niu Jianhua ran so fast that he disappeared in an instant. Lu Huayan only chased a few steps before stopping. He had to admit that Niu Jianhua had mastered a profound movement technique. His speed was even faster than his. It was pointless to chase after him. There was still a long time to go, and he would still be able to meet the other party again. I'll deal with the other two first. He turned around and looked menacingly at Ling Han and Xiao Zhixuan. You, break one of your arms and scram, he said to Xiao Zhixian, before turning to look at Ling Han. As for you, pull out your tongue and break your own arms. Ling Han exclaimed and said, I can cut off one arm, but it's too difficult to cut off both arms. Why don't you demonstrate for me? Lu Huayan couldn't help but get angry. Let me show you. This guy is really gutsy. He doesn't even have a backer, yet he still dares to be rude to me. Looks like I have to dig out your eyes and cripple your legs before I can make you remember your lesson. Lu Huayan spoke indifferently, but her rage had already surged out, and her gaze was terrifying to the extreme. Ling Han spread out his hands and said to Xiao Zhixian, Why are there always people threatening me? I hate being threatened the most. Towards these kinds of people, I usually beat them until they become retarded. Xiao Zhixian was completely speechless. The only thing she could do now was to cut off all relations with Ling Han. She stood a little further away to show that she was innocent. You really don't know how the word death is written. Lu Huayan strode towards Ling Han. Hong, the blood in his body surged, and he was like a beast in human form, about to start a massacre. Ling Han crossed his arms in front of his chest, looking extremely relaxed. Lu Huayan made his move. Hong, the cold air billowed, and it was as if he had suddenly arrived at an extremely cold place. Even if he poured a cup of hot water out of thin air, it would instantly freeze into ice. He was filled with confidence. 99% of his opponents could not even withstand the cold that he released, and they would directly shiver and lose their ability to fight. He believed that Ling Han would not be an exception. However, in the next moment, he discovered to his astonishment that Ling Han was standing perfectly fine, and did not look like he had been affected at all. He revealed a serious expression and said, So you were pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger. Your strength is not weak at all. Ling Han broke into a smile. Thank you for the compliment. Xiao Zhixian was also shocked. This fellow could actually resist Lu Huayan's cold air attack. Although this did not mean that Ling Han could fight Lu Huayan, there was at least a sliver of hope. Such a strong cultivator, why was he so low profile? And even when he was protected by Niu Jianhua, he did not raise any objections. Wait, this fellow couldn't be toying with Niu Jianhua, right? Extremely likely. So what? I am still invincible among my peers. Lu Huayan roared and charged towards Ling Han. Being able to resist the cold air was one thing, but being able to resist his attack was another. Ling Han's right fist clenched, and he punched towards Lu Huayan. The two of them collided, and a violent energy wave swept out, causing sand and stones to fly everywhere. Xiao Zhixian saw clearly that Ling Han was not at a disadvantage in this attack. He stood steadily, and even his expression did not change. He was still so calm, and there was a faint smile on his lips. This fellow was really pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger. Lu Huayan revealed a serious expression. Although they had only exchanged one move, it was enough to let him see that Ling Han was not ordinary. Otherwise, how could a normal secret realm cultivator withstand his cold air attack, let alone a full force punch? This opponent could not be underestimated, and he was even more difficult to deal with than Niu Jianhua. His heart trembled. In the previous battle with Niu Jianhua, he had used up a lot of his secret power. If Ling Han's strength was not weaker than Niu Jianhua's, then under the situation where he had no more energy left, it was very likely that he would be defeated. This person was so devious, not caring about the life or death of his companion, and only used him to exhaust his strength, so that he could win the reputation of being the one to defeat him alone. Damn it. Whether it was in Lu Huayun or Xiao Zhixian's eyes, Ling Han's image was incomparably evil. Ling Han let out a long roar and began his counterattack. Previously, there was that idiot Niu Jianhua who liked to charge at the front, so Ling Han did not mind taking it easy. But now that he was being bullied, he naturally would not keep a low profile. You think I'm afraid of you? Lu Huayun roared and punched out. Peng peng peng. Neither of them dodged, and it was a head-on clash. There was no need for technique, and it was a direct collision of strength. Thus, it was easy to determine the winner. After a heavy blow, Lu Huayun felt as if his insides had been turned upside down, and it was indescribably uncomfortable. His bones were also cracking, and he could conclude that there must have been cracks on them. If he continued to fight like this, his internal organs might be damaged by the powerful shock, and his bones would definitely be broken. However, if he could not hold on, then his opponent would not be able to either. You're ruthless. I'm even more ruthless than you. Lu Huayun held back a wave of energy and attacked Ling Han in a frenzy. He was someone who had just escaped from the cage, so who should he be afraid of? Chapter 3582. Ling Han was astonished. Why did this person have to be so stubborn, insisting on making life difficult for him? He came all the way from 7 transformations, 7 bones, and 7 veins. The toughness of his physique wasn't something any mystery-seeking realm could compare to, yet he insisted on fighting him head-on. Was his head kicked by a donkey? However, since he insisted on fighting head-on with his strong points, Ling Han naturally wouldn't mind. After a few more blows, Lu Huayun's condition was very bad. His hair was all messy, and his forehead was covered with cold sweat, which came from the pain. It was really painful. He had at least 3 broken finger bones, and there were many cracks on his arm bones. If they fought a few more times, it was guaranteed that his arm would be crippled. This was really ironic. Previously, he threatened to break Ling Han's arms and legs, but in the end, it seemed that his own hand was already broken, and his arm was more or less the same. It was obviously a head-on clash, and both sides suffered the same shock. Logically, Ling Han wouldn't be much better off than him. But look at Ling Han. He was calm and composed, and did not look the slightest bit disheveled. What kind of freak was he? Was he made of motherfucking gold? Who exactly are you? Lu Huayun said through clenched teeth. This clash made him suffer too much. I'm Ken Yi. Ling Han smiled, and crooked his finger at Lu Huayun. Didn't you want to break my arms and legs? Come, I'm waiting. Lu Huayun's expression was ugly. Wasn't this a blatant slap to the face? Ken Yi, I'll remember you, he said through clenched teeth, really wanting to smash Ling Han to death with a punch. Ling Han spread his hands. He was very innocent in this matter, all right? Lu Huaming was beaten up by Niu Jianhua, so what did it have to do with him? Why did he have to bear grudges? He couldn't understand. He was born from the divine stone, so his luck should be full, so why did he encounter such an undeserved disaster? Seeing Ling Han's bitter and vengeful expression, Lu Huayun couldn't help but become even more furious. You've already gained such a big advantage. Why do you still look like you've suffered a loss? Ridicule, absolute ridicule. Ling Han laughed and said, since you want to cripple my hands and feet, I naturally can't be polite. I'll cripple your 5 limbs. Lu Huayun was stunned. 5 limbs? Where did these 5 limbs come from? Ling Han saw his dumbfounded expression and kindly explained, only men have the so-called 5 limbs. Only then did Lu Huayun understand, this guy wants to castrate me. Ken Yi, do you think that just because your physique is a bit stronger than mine, you'll definitely win? He said coldly. He drew out a long sword from his sleeve. It was slender and long like a whip, and soft. However, when he activated it with his secret power, the blade of the sword immediately straightened. He formed a sword technique and pointed it at Ling Han. His entire body also emitted a sharp aura, as if he had also become a sword. Ling Han was shocked. He didn't think that this guy had some attainments in the path of the sword. Just from his standing posture, he already had a trace of the bearing of a master swordsman. Under my life-stealing 13 swords, can you still be so stubborn? Lu Huayun said proudly. His battle prowess was completely different whether he used a sword or not. Mouth King, make your move, Ling Han said with a smile. You're asking for it? Lu Huayun roared and charged towards Ling Han. His sword swept out and dazzling light shone. Life-stealing 13 swords, each strike taking a life. Ling Han opened his eye technique and found the flaw in the sword technique. Then he pointed out with a finger, and a secret power shot out from the acupuncture point on his fingertip. Pooh, there was immediately a flash of blood on Lu Huayun's left shoulder. What? Lu Huayun's attack instantly stopped, and he stared dumbly at Ling Han, his face filled with disbelief. No matter what kind of secret technique it was, there would be a flaw, and in the process of cultivation, because one did not learn it well enough, there would be even more flaws. Lu Huayun was a genius swordsman, and he had completely mastered the life-stealing 13 swords. Thus, he was only left with the flaw in the sword technique itself. However, this kind of flaw was hidden in the fierce attack. Not to mention the flaw, ordinary people would not even be able to see through his sword technique, so how could they possibly catch the flaw? But he had just launched his attack, and Ling Han had attacked with a finger, directly pointing at the only flaw in his sword technique. How could he not be shocked? It must be a coincidence. He regained his composure and raised his sword again, stabbing towards Ling Han. Ling Han smiled calmly and once again pointed out with a finger. Pooh, the force passed through the flaw in the sword technique and struck Lu Huayun's right rib cage. Pooh, another spurt of blood bloomed. Lu Huayun's body trembled. For it to happen twice in a row, it was definitely not a fluke, but Ling Han was really able to catch the flaw in his sword technique. How is this possible? How is this possible? Ling Han was somewhat surprised and said, isn't it the 13 swords? Why aren't you attacking? Attack my ass. Lu Huayun shook his head. The life-stealing 13 swords was extremely powerful, but it was also because of this that it was too weak in terms of defense. As long as he could finish off his opponent with the force of a thunderbolt, it did not matter if his defense was high or low. Previously, even if he encountered an opponent of equal strength, as long as he used the life-stealing 13 swords, his opponent would definitely be on the defensive. He was not like Ling Han, who could make him bleed with a flick of his finger. If he used this sword technique again, he would only be asking for trouble. He attacked again, but this time, the sword stance was not as sharp. Instead, it had the charm of a gentle breeze and drizzling rain. He changed his sword technique to the Misty Rain Sword. Ling Han used his ocular technique as a smile suffused across his lips. This sword technique was different. It was more focused on defense, with 30% offense and 70% defense. He was still able to catch the flaw, but even if he managed to hit the flaw, his opponent could easily resolve it. He tapped out with his finger, and a blast of force blasted out. Indeed, Lu Huayun's sword stance changed, and he easily resolved the strike. Ling Han smiled slightly. Was this enough to resist him? He took the initiative to attack, using the lightning flash fist. His attacks were as fast as lightning. This was a fist technique he had learned from 7th Prince. Ling Han did not usually use it, so the chances of him being recognized were very low. Furthermore, since 7th Prince knew it, there might be more people who knew it. Therefore, there was no need to worry about his identity being exposed. Fist Prince struck at Lu Huayun like meteors crashing to the ground. They were indescribably fast. Lu Huayun slashed with his sword. He was very domineering, and while withstanding the Fist Prince, he continued attacking Ling Han, hoping to reverse the situation. Once Ling Han grasped the initiative, how could he allow his opponent to turn the tables? His attacks became fiercer and fiercer, suppressing Lu Huayun. It was a pity that in order to hide his identity, Ling Han could not use the Demon Monkey Fist, nor could he use the Heavenly Rune Jade. Otherwise, if he used his full battle prowess, he would have long been able to finish off his opponent. Even so, Xiao Zhishuan's mouth was agape. She was extremely shocked. She had misjudged again. She had previously thought that Niu Jianhua was just an ordinary spoiled brat. She did not expect him to be a one-star genius. What was even worse was that Ling Han was actually stronger than Lu Huayan. A martial arts competition had actually attracted so many top-notch geniuses. Chapter 3584. When the blade arrived, Ling Han casually flicked his finger, and with a ding, the blade flew out. The brawny man who attacked screamed in pain. The web between his thumb and forefinger was torn open. Blood gushed out, and the pain was excruciating. Ling Han showed no mercy. He pointed again with his finger. Pooh! A gust of energy shot out from the aperture acupoint and entered the brawny man's eye, instantly blasting his brain into pieces. The power of the aperture acupoint attack was slightly weaker. Against an expert like Lu Huayan, it could only serve as a distraction. However, not everyone was a one-star genius. That brawny man was only slightly stronger than the average Mystery Realm cultivator, and he could not even block Ling Han's aperture acupoint attack. Ling Han retracted his finger with a carefree expression, as if he had just done something insignificant. However, many people nearby saw this scene, and all of them were awestruck. A ruthless person had come. They did not dare to provoke Ling Han. Anyway, they had not found the 18 claws of the Golden Eagle, and now was not the time to fight for it. Moreover, those with a bit of strength also believed that they would be able to advance into the top 32, so it was impossible for them to fight for the cultivation method with their lives. This was merely obtaining a ticket in advance and an immortal method. If they were to lose their lives because of this, it would be too unjust. Ling Han searched the mountaintop, but no one knew what the carrier of the 18 claws of the Golden Eagle looked like. Was it carved on a stone slab, a jade tablet, or a drawing on paper or cloth? Therefore, it was a little difficult to find it. They needed to open their eyes wide and search carefully. Otherwise, with so many people crowding here, wouldn't they have been found long ago? The killing continued. Many people thought that since they had not found the mystical method, they might as well kill first. Anyway, if they killed most of the people, they could guarantee that they would advance to the top 32. Ling Han did not have the heart of a saint and did not stop them. Since they had come to participate in the competition, they had to have the corresponding awareness. The other party did not force them to go up the mountain with a knife, so now they could only be responsible for their own lives. Shouts and shouts filled the skies. From time to time, there would be miserable cries. There were people who fled down the mountain. They weren't looking for a place to hide, but rather that they didn't want to play anymore. They wanted to leave the mountain and give up on the competition. Ling Han turned a deaf ear to him. He had to quickly find the immortal technique so that he would have more time to study it. Found it, someone suddenly shouted. In an instant, everyone's gazes shifted over. Under a huge rock, there was a book with only a corner of its cover exposed. This should be the 18 claws of the Golden Eagle. The person who cried out had a look of regret on his face, as if he was regretting why he had cried out. Wouldn't it be better to keep quiet and get rich? Haha, this is mine. A figure flew over like a divine dragon and slammed a palm towards the boulder. He wanted to send the boulder flying and take away the celestial technique below. In your dreams! Someone tried to stop him. At this time, those who dared to snatch the immortal technique were naturally all experts. Ordinary people could only try their luck. At such a critical moment, trying to snatch it would be suicide. Bang bang bunga fierce battle immediately began. More and more experts joined the fight, but under the mutual restraint, no one could send the boulder flying and take away the celestial technique below. Ling Han didn't go forward, because he remembered very clearly that the book was definitely not there when he looked there before. Why did it suddenly appear now? Did that person really lose his composure in this surprise? Obviously not. Ling Han searched for the previous person in the crowd, and very soon he located him. This was a young man of about 23 or 24 years old. Previously, his expression had been one of vexation, but now he was sitting on a rock, a green foxtail in his mouth, leisurely watching the show. As expected, Ling Han walked over, leaned on the boulder, and said, "You must feel a sense of accomplishment to have single-handedly provoked such a huge battle, right?" The young man smiled slightly. "What are you talking about? I don't understand." Purposely placed a book under the boulder to trick others into discovering the celestial technique, which led to a bloody battle, Ling Han said. This time, the young man didn't deny it. Instead, he said, "What do you think? My acting skills are very good, right?" His acting skills weren't very good, but he had a good grasp of the human heart and instantly led to a battle. Otherwise, if one thought about it carefully, there were actually quite a lot of flaws. Ling Han said honestly, "Your acting skills are a bit exaggerated, especially the upset performance at the end. It's too much." I'll definitely improve next time." The young man was quite modest. He nodded repeatedly, then stretched out his hand. "I'm Sima Huai. What about you?" "Ken Yi." Ling Han also stretched out his hand. Bang. At this moment, someone finally took advantage of the chaos of the battle to break the boulder and pick up the book under it. He was extremely excited, waved the book and said, "I got it, I got it." Instantly, the attacks of the others smashed towards him. Although that person was extraordinary, he couldn't withstand the siege of so many powerful enemies. Added with the fact that he was too excited to defend himself, he was instantly blasted into pieces. His face was filled with disbelief. He had already obtained the celestial technique. Logically speaking, the people from the immemorial sect should have appeared to receive him. How could they watch him be blasted to death? He managed to raise the book in his hand a little higher. His gaze swept over it and instantly he couldn't catch his breath and died. 7 words were written on it. Appreciation and analysis of 300 ancient poems. Fuck, I've been tricked to death. That person's eyes were wide open, revealing strong unwillingness. He definitely died with his eyes wide open. The others naturally discovered it too, and all of them were seething with anger. They were actually fooled. Shua, these people turned their heads at the same time and looked towards Sima Huai. Sima Huai's acting skills were off the charts. He revealed an expression of extreme fear, pointed at Ling Han, and said, "Misters, I was also forced. It was him. He made me press that book under the boulder, saying that he found the celestial technique." He was filled with righteous indignation and put on the appearance of a victim. Fuck, he could even do this? Ling Han was surprised. He had really underestimated Sima Huai's desire to perform. He had a feeling that Sima Huai was extremely powerful. Even if he couldn't defeat those people, it would be very easy for him to kill a way out. However, he had improvised and caused Ling Han to fall into a trap. Ling Han shook his head. It was really rare to see such a weirdo. "It's you." Everyone stared at Ling Han. Although they still had some doubts, they were already 70% convinced. After all, if Ling Han had nothing to do with Sima Huai, why were the two of them standing so close to each other? The two of them were obviously watching the show. Damn it, this was too damn it. Ling Han smiled slightly. "If I say that I have nothing to do with this matter, you won't believe me, right?" He admitted it. "It really has nothing to do with me. I was forced to do it." Sima Huai immediately shouted. "Shut up," a red-haired man shouted. Then, he said with a murderous aura, "Why don't we kill both of them?" Chapter 3585. Okay. The others nodded. Although Ling Han was the main culprit, Sima Huai was the accomplice of a villain, so he naturally could not let him off. Ling Han laughed and said to Sima Huai, "How was it? I said that your acting was exaggerated, right?" Sima Huai sighed. He felt that he had acted very well and was very engrossed. Shio. The people around them had already attacked Ling Han and Sima Huai. "Sai, why do you all have to seek death?" Sima Huai said calmly. His figure suddenly attacked, and he was as elegant as a ghost. Pew pew pew. He moved freely through the crowd, and blood splattered everywhere. All of them had their skulls removed by him, and they fell to the ground dead. He had killed more than 10 people in a row, but he was not stained with blood at all. He was elegant and at ease. The others were so terrified that they were about to spit their guts out. How strong was this person? If they dared to fight for it, they would definitely be stronger than ordinary people in the mystery-seeking realm. However, with so many people besieging him, he still killed one of them with one move. How big was the difference in strength? They all suspected that this person was an expert of the celestial path. Immediately, someone turned around and ran. Such a killing god could not be matched. It was better not to go and die. If there was one, there would be another. The people here quickly ran away. Sima Huai turned around and smiled at Ling Han. I'm quite loyal. I didn't implicate you, did I? But I'm still very unhappy, Ling Han said calmly. So what? Sima Huai asked as he looked at Ling Han. His eyes suddenly became bloodshot, and it was as if they were dyed with blood. You are a pretty good opponent. I think it should be very beautiful to use your skin as a lamp. Aren't you good at acting? Why did you suddenly become crazy? Ling Han took out the tombstone fragment. He decided to teach this guy a lesson. Huh, you want to use a brick to fight against me? Sima Huai laughed. Ken Yi, it seems that you didn't give me the wrong name. You're a retard. Ling Han held the tombstone fragment in his right hand, and his left hand hooked at Sima Huai. I'll help you. Sima Huai attacked. Ling Han threw a brick at Sima Huai. Shoo! Like a cannonball, it smashed towards Sima Huai. Ignorant. Sima Huai casually waved his hand and shot out a force to send the tombstone fragments flying. However, his expression immediately changed because the tombstone fragments seemed to be untouchable. The force he shot out was useless and the brick was still smashing towards him. At this time, he had already missed the best time to dodge, so he could only cross his arms and block his face. Bam! He only felt pain in his hands, and then his entire body felt unwell. It was as if he had been entangled by a wave of yin qi. Although it was invisible, he had a feeling that he had been entangled by something. Pain. He looked down and saw that both his hands were deformed. The bones must have been broken. He was greatly astonished. What kind of precious artifact was this? It was too terrifying. Ling Han's figure closed in, and he delivered another punch. Sima Huai hurriedly retreated. He did not know how badly his hands were injured, so he did not dare to fight with Ling Han. Ling Han took the opportunity to take back the tombstone fragments. He had smashed this thing just to try it out, but he did not expect the effect to be so shocking. I think you should act as a dead person. He punched repeatedly as fast as flowing light. Sima Huai was angry and shocked. If he was still in his perfect state, he naturally would not be afraid of this thunder-light fist. However, it seemed that a few bones in his hands were broken, and his meridians were also injured. How could he be suitable for battle? He could only retreat, and retreat again and again. It was such a humiliation. He had always been the one toying with others, but now he was in such a sorry state. Feeling the pain in his hands getting more and more intense, he did not continue to fight and turned to escape. If Ling Han used so near, yet worlds apart, he would definitely be able to catch up to Sima Huai and send him flying. However, this movement technique was very likely to expose him, so it was better to use it carefully. Forget it, this guy was already miserable enough anyway. Ling Han kept the tombstone fragments and continued to search for the celestial technique. He calmed his heart and dug 3 feet into the ground. Finally, he found this celestial technique. This was a roll of beast skin. Of course, it was not peeled off by the void beast. It was a little old. After unfolding it, it was a scene of a golden eagle hunting. From different angles, different opponents, but they were all quickly subdued. This was not a claw technique. How did it become a golden eagle hunting? Young man, you can go down the mountain. A voice sounded in Ling Han's ear. Now that he had obtained the 18 golden eagle claws, he could directly enter the main competition. Ling Han nodded, but he was a little anxious. He did not know if this person had seen the scene of him injuring Sima Huai just now. Although the tombstone fragments were inauspicious items, their effects were shocking. He did not want to let the experts of the celestial path see them and have evil intentions. Fortunately, after he went down the mountain, he did not see anyone come out to look for him. Once he returned to the courtyard, Ling Han immediately began to practice the 18 golden eagle claws. This was not a direct teaching of the claw technique. Instead, it should be through observing the golden eagle hunting to understand this celestial technique. He stared carefully, and in his sea of knowledge, the originally still scene started to move. Ling Han seemed to have returned to the prehistoric times. A golden eagle with a wingspan of 100 zhang was flying in the sky. Very soon, he discovered that a giant python that was 300 zhang long had appeared below. It was breathing towards the sky, and a mass of black qi was moving back and forth in its mouth. There was also a bronze-colored bead floating in front of its mouth. It had an indescribable charm. A python in the life core realm. Ling Han immediately thought in his heart. Xiao, the golden eagle directly launched an attack. It swooped down from the sky and clawed down with its claws, raising a golden brilliance. The giant python and the golden eagle fought fiercely, but it was torn to pieces by the golden eagle in just a few moves. The scene changed, and the golden eagle was once again looking for prey. This time, it had its eyes on a silver rhinoceros, and the horn on its forehead was like a blade. That was a bladed rhinoceros. According to ancient records, this kind of demonic beast would be in existence in the life core realm when it reached adulthood. Moreover, it was an outstanding existence in the life core realm. Its blade-like horn could cut through anything and was indestructible. However, the golden eagle brazenly launched an attack. It directly grabbed this bladed rhinoceros, leaving it with no place to use its horn. Then, it forcefully tore this rhinoceros into two pieces in the air. And, Ling Han saw one scene after another of the golden condor's wrongdoings. There were ferocious beasts on land, ferocious fish in the sea, and ferocious birds in the air, but all of them were cleanly torn to shreds by the golden condor. When all the scenes disappeared, Ling Han began to comprehend, transforming the golden eagle's attack into a claw technique that he could use. His comprehension was extremely terrifying. After a day, he had already grasped the basics. At this time, someone came to deliver a message, asking Ling Han to hurry to the square in front of Great Will Pavilion at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. The main competition would be held there. Other than Ling Han, Niu Jianhua, who was in this courtyard, also received a message. In reality, those who had been eliminated had already left the ancient sect, and those who remained here were all qualified to participate in the main competition. Chapter 3586. It was not surprising that Niu Jianhua could enter the top 32. After all, he was a one-star genius. But to Niu Jianhua, he was shocked to find that Ling Han was still in the yard. Later, he found out that Ling Han was the lucky one to obtain the 18 golden eagle claws. No wonder. He was a divination master. It was normal for him to be the first to find the immortal art. He did not go to the top of the mountain to search. He was the descendant of perfected Lord Spirit transformation. There was no secret technique that he could not obtain. What a joke! But because he had shamelessly left Ling Han and Xiao Zhishuan behind, he was too embarrassed to greet Ling Han. He pretended that he did not know anything. After a night, Ling Han's understanding of the 18 golden eagle claws improved. But he would only know how much power he could unleash after a fight. When the sun rose, he began to cultivate. He opened the acupoints in his body and absorbed the power of heaven and earth to help expand his meridians. This process would only end at the secret-seeking realm. In the secret-seeking realm, there was no need to open up meridians. Instead, it would open up an area in the body to store mystic power. Everyone opened up different mystic realms. Some people used the heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys as storage space. Some people were creative and used the brain as storage space. But most people opened up their dantian. There was no real end to the secret-seeking realm. You could open up a small space to go to the Spring Immortal's door. You could also stay in this realm for a long time and expand the storage space. Because the secret-seeking realm only determined the duration of a martial artist battle, the Enlightenment realm affected one's battle strength. In this realm, one could continue to expand their meridians. The wider the meridians, the more mystic power one could release, and the more powerful it would be. Of course, if the cultivation of the secret-seeking realm was too careless, it would not work to use up all the mystic power in a few moves. The Enlightenment realm was extremely important. Some people broke through after only opening 36 acupoints. Then, in this life, they could only use 36 acupoints to absorb the power of heaven and earth. Compared to those who broke through the second and third realms, the gap would always exist, and it was impossible to disappear. Of course, Ling Han wouldn't be satisfied with the first realm. Even the third realm wasn't his final destination. He wanted to open up all his hidden points and lay down the thickest and thickest foundation. Half an hour later, he stopped. In a few more days, he would be able to welcome a leap in his life level. When that time came, he didn't know how many more chakras he would open. After breakfast, he revised his 18 golden eagle claws. Seeing that it was almost time, he pushed open the door and left for the Great Will Pavilion. Niu Jianhua left a step earlier than him, so the two of them did not meet. The Great Will Pavilion was not far away. Ling Han only took 10 minutes to reach it. Looking at the time, it was still 5 minutes away from 10 o'clock. His calculations were very accurate. Ling Han looked around and saw 3 familiar faces. Niu Jianhua, Sima Huai, Lu Huayan, and the others all exuded a powerful aura. Naturally, they were the best in the secret realm. One-star geniuses should be the majority. When Sima Huai and Lu Huayan saw him, they all revealed expressions of anger and fear. The Foundation establishment powerhouse from before walked out with his hands behind his back. Although he was very pretentious, in front of these people in the secret realm, he was naturally qualified. The official competition starts today, he said faintly. In a while, everyone will come and draw lots. Number 1 against number 32, number 2 against number 31, and so on. In the battle, other means are not prohibited except for talisman soldiers. After one party admits defeat, the other party must stop. Otherwise, I will kill him personally. If you don't admit defeat, you don't have to bear any responsibility, be it maiming or death. If you are afraid, then quickly admit defeat. He paused for a moment, giving everyone time to think. However, it was only a few seconds. Seeing that no one spoke, he waved his hand. Then let's start drawing lots. Everyone stepped forward one by one and drew a number. Ling Han took a look and saw that he had drawn number 9. The first match, number 1 against number 32. Hurry up and come out. Don't dawdle. The Foundation establishment powerhouse obviously had no patience. In his opinion, the people in the secret realm were like ants. Now that he was asked to preside over the battles in the secret realm, he was naturally very unhappy. The two people stepped out and immediately began a fierce battle. What disappointed Ling Han was that although these two people's battle prowess was quite powerful, they hadn't reached the level of one-star geniuses yet. However, because their battle prowess was close, they tangled with each other for over an hour and used all kinds of techniques. In the end, it was because one of them had more stamina that they finally won. This was the advantage of cultivating the secret realm for a long time. Once it was a protracted battle, the effect would be obvious. Then, number 2 against number 31. This battle ended very quickly. Number 31 was a one-star genius, so it only took him a few minutes to finish the battle. The battles continued one after another. Number 9 against number 24. Ling Han walked out and saw that his opponent was actually Niu Jianhua. Niu Jianhua obviously did not expect this either. His face showed a surprised expression, but then he nodded and said, "You are no match for me. Hurry up and admit defeat." After all, Ling Han was proficient in divination. If he went to open ancient sites in the future, he might be able to help. Therefore, he did not want Ling Han to be publicly defeated to avoid embarrassment in the future. As soon as he said this, Lu Huayan and Sima Huai looked at him with disdain. "Where did you get your confidence from?" Ling Han shook his head and smiled. "It's better if you admit defeat. I am determined to win first place." Niu Jianhua was stunned, then he laughed. "What a joke! You still want first place?" He snorted and said, "You are just lucky to have obtained a celestial method, so you can directly enter the main competition. If I were to attack, I would be able to defeat you in one move. So, just admit defeat obediently. Don't talk nonsense. Hurry up and fight," the Foundation building elite said coldly. He was extremely impatient. Niu Jianhua cursed him for being vulgar in his heart. He was even more furious. Since when did a Foundation building elite dare to reprimand him? However, he was not arrogant enough to be arrogant here. He immediately snorted and said, "Can ye, then don't blame me for being impolite." As for the star luo orchid fruit, he was determined to get it. Xiao, he finally attacked. With a tap of his foot, he charged towards Ling Han. He struck out with his palm, raising a sky full of flames. He was not a kind person. When he attacked, he was merciless. Ling Han used the Golden Eagle's 18 claws. He stretched out his hands, and they instantly turned into a pure gold color. Seeing this, the foundation building elite could not help but look shocked. His hands turned golden. This was the sign of mastering the Golden Eagle's 18 claws. But this brat had only obtained this celestial method for 2 days. How did he already master it? Master. End of chapter. More refreshing reading on mobile. Chapter 3588. Black-bellied, everyone made comments about Ling Han. Look, he was scared to the point of forfeiting, yet you still refused to let him go. How could there be such a mean person? Niu Jianhua retreated to the back. He turned around and left the primordial sect. Becoming a disciple of the primordial sect? How could he have such an interest? He only came here to obtain the Star Luo orchid fruit. Now that he had no chance of getting first place, why should he stay? Wait. He stopped. If he didn't stay in the primordial sect, how would he know when Ling Han would leave? He had to get rid of this person. Therefore, he had to stay in the primordial sect and guard Ling Han. When Ling Han left, he would secretly follow him and let the 4 servants capture Ling Han. He would interrogate and torture him before finally killing Ling Han. Daring to tease him? Did he know who he was? Niu Jianhua didn't leave. He returned to his original position and quietly watched the battle. The battle continued. Lu Huayan and Sima Huai went up one after another and easily won. There weren't that many 1-star geniuses, so they could be considered outstanding. Ling Han's gaze focused on a young man in black. He was Lu Jun. He was the 3rd disciple of the primordial True Lord. To be accepted as a disciple by the Spirit Transformation True Lord, Lu Jun. He was definitely a 1-star genius and could be ranked at the top among the 1-star geniuses. As soon as he appeared, even the Foundation establishment expert was very polite. He faced him with a smile and gave him enough face. This guy had put on airs before, but now he was almost fawning, highlighting the power of the Spirit Transformation True Lord. An expert of the immortal path would have to bow to a mortal. After the first round of battles ended, the stronger geniuses naturally stood out. Among the 1-star geniuses, only Niu Jianhua didn't advance to the 2nd round. Because it was already late, the 2nd round would be held the next day, so everyone dispersed. Niu Jianhua had just started to move when he was stopped by someone. After a while, a gray-robed elder appeared. Strangely, his body was actually translucent. True self-realm. Niu Jianhua's expression changed. Even though the Ox family had an old servant at the True Self realm, one couldn't deny the power of a True Self realm expert just because of this. Moreover, this place wasn't the 100 Victories Star. If he really was killed by the other party, even if his family's old ancestor arrived, it was still uncertain whether he could make the archaic True Monarch lower his head and hand over the murderer. Therefore, it was better for him to be more respectful. Greetings, Senior. He cupped his hands in greeting. This True Self realm expert was called Tongyu. He nodded his head and put on a very high attitude before saying, "Where are you from?" Niu Jianhua hesitated for a moment before deciding to tell the truth. This junior comes from the Victorious Star's Star Dragon sect. My ancestor is Niu Fang. So you're a descendant of True Monarch Niu. Tongyu nodded. No wonder this brat could nurture weapons. So he came from another celestial body. Senior knows my ancestor? Niu Jianhua was pleasantly surprised. Could he ask him to take down Ling Han? Tongyu smiled. I haven't seen him before, but I've heard of True Monarch Niu's fame. There was no friendship between them. Niu Jianhua sighed in his heart. Since there was no friendship between them, why would they give him a small secret-seeking realm face? Since you're True Monarch Niu's descendant, the archaic sect doesn't dare to accept you as a disciple. You can leave now. Tongyu waved his hand. Damn, they're chasing me away? Niu Jianhua was stunned. Didn't they say that as long as he entered the top 32, he would be a disciple of the archaic sect? Why was he being chased away? However, Tongyu had his own thoughts. If a descendant of a true monarch spirit transformation stayed in his own sect, what if something happened? Niu Fang could still be blocked by the archaic true monarch, but what if Niu Fang invited an expert from the Star Dragon sect? If a sect master-level expert descended, the archaic sect would only be annihilated with a single palm. Right now, they still wanted to keep a low profile and didn't want to attract a sect master-level expert or even a venerable-level expert to complete their plot. Therefore, it was better for Niu Jianhua to leave early to avoid trouble. Once a true self-realm expert made up his mind, how could Niu Jianhua change his mind? Helplessly, he could only leave the sect. Young master. The 4 Foundation establishment old servants all jumped out and bowed to Niu Jianhua. Congratulations, young master, for obtaining a treasure fruit. You've laid down an even more stable foundation and your grand Tao is within reach. One of the old men hurriedly flattered without even looking at how black Niu Jianhua's expression was. Congratulations, your sister. Niu Jianhua kicked him. Young master. The other 3 old men were all shocked. Did this flattery not work? That old man didn't dare to dodge or retaliate, allowing Niu Jianhua to kick him. Only after venting did Niu Jianhua tell them the reason. What? That little bastard is actually the thief who ambushed and robbed young master. That bastard actually followed us all the way. Isn't he secretly mocking us? He's really too despicable. I already said that brat can't be trusted. The 4th old man's belated words immediately caused Niu Jianhua to explode in anger and beat him up. Some people, even if they stepped onto the path of immortality, were still mentally retarded. Young master, what do we do now? Niu Jianhua muttered. I originally planned to keep an eye on Ken Yi in the sect and capture him as soon as he left the sect. But from the looks of it now, we'll have to split up and guard the paths that lead out of the mountain. Young master is wise. The 4 old men started to flatter him again. Ken Yi, I definitely won't let you off. Leaving Niu Jianhua aside, a night passed. Ling Han faced the morning sun and cultivated. Then, after breakfast, he went to the plaza in front of the Great Will Pavilion. Because they'd already drawn lots yesterday, there was no need for it today, and the competition directly began. Soon, it was Ling Han's turn. He directly put on his battle armor and stood in the middle of the plaza. His opponent was Lu Huayan. This guy was very helpless. Previously, he couldn't defeat Ling Han, and now that he was wearing a set of battle armor and looked very powerful, it was even more impossible for him to defeat him. However, if he didn't defeat Ling Han, he wouldn't be able to obtain the Star Luo orchid fruit. He gave it his all. With a loud roar, black hair quickly grew all over his body, covering his entire body. In an instant, he looked like a gorilla. I didn't expect this kid to have a trace of the vicious ape's bloodline. The Foundation establishment cultivator was surprised. Not only had this competition attracted many geniuses, there were even some freaks. Lu Huayan shook her hands, and the nails on her 10 fingers popped out. They were about a foot long, as if they were 10 sharp knives. He roared furiously and charged over, waving his claws at Ling Han. Ling Han didn't move, allowing his opponent to attack him. However, the armor's defense was unfathomable. At the very least, sharp weapons could not pierce through this layer of tough armor. Lu Huayan quickly came to his senses and changed his attack method. He clenched his hands into fists and punched at the armor. End of this chapter. Chapter 3589. Pung, the fist landed on the battle armor, and the power of the shock rolled out. This was something the battle armor couldn't completely dispel, and it continued to transmit towards Ling Han. But to Ling Han, who cultivated to the true pinnacle of each cultivation level, this kind of blow was nothing. Ling Han only needed to circulate his mystic power slightly, and he was able to nullify the vibrating power. Seeing this scene, everyone was speechless. How could they break through such a thick defense? If they couldn't break through Ling Han's defense, they wouldn't be able to injure him at all, so how could they talk about defeating Ling Han? The remaining people all frowned. If they wanted to get first, they might encounter Ling Han, so how could they deal with him? They racked their brains, and felt that after wearing this tortoise shell, Ling Han's defense was really unbreakable. Ken Yi, do you dare to fight fair and square? Lu Huayun roared angrily. Now, his whole body was furry, and he was basically a gorilla. Ling Han was surprised. Did I injure you with a sneak attack? No, Lu Huayun answered subconsciously. Did I ambush you from behind? Ling Han asked again. No. Lu Huayun shook his head, not understanding why Ling Han would ask this. I didn't ambush you, nor did I injure you with hidden weapons. Why isn't it fair and square? Ling Han asked again. This? Lu Huayun was instantly speechless. Yes, it seemed like Ling Han was fair and square. Look, he was standing there and letting him hit him. But why did he feel that something was off? He thought and said, take off the battle armor, and we'll fight fair and square. He finally realized that this was the key point. No! Ling Han refused decisively. You don't play by the rules. Shouldn't you be heroic and say fair and square? Your strength isn't weaker than mine, okay? Why are you afraid of a fair battle? Lu Huayun bared his teeth. He really wanted to pounce and bite Ling Han to death. Is it really okay to bully people like this? You don't even dare to have a fair fight? He continued to provoke. Ling Han chuckled and said, I snatched this armor with my own ability. Why should I take it off to fight you? Damn, that makes sense. Everyone was speechless. Not only was Ling Han's defense like a tortoise's shell, his skin was also as thick as a tortoise's. They couldn't pierce through him at all. Lu Huayun was at her wit's end. She looked at the foundation-building powerhouse supervising the battle, hoping that he could uphold justice. Are you going to fight or not? If you're not going to fight, then admit defeat, said the foundation establishment expert impatiently. Yes, Lu Huayun thought for a moment, then shook her head and said, I admit defeat. Fight my ass, I can't hurt anyone at all. Ling Han, on the other hand, said, thank you for letting me win. I'm recuperating now, yet I can subdue the enemy without fighting. My character is indeed noble. Puff Lu Huayun immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. How shameless can you be? This is called persuading people by virtue. Admire your sister. Even the foundation establishment expert's face darkened again. He already knew that Ling Han was a weirdo yesterday, but today he had raised his shamelessness to a whole new level. Ling Han chuckled. That's because you haven't seen the big black dog yet. If the big black dog was standing here now, just his iron underwear alone would be enough to blind your eyes, okay? This battle not only made Niu Huayun spit out blood, but also gave others a headache. They were all thinking about what they should do if they were to encounter Ling Han. With this thought, it naturally affected the brilliance of the next few battles, and they greatly lost their standard. Because there were only 8 battles, they were all finished by noon. Therefore, after lunch, the battles continued in the afternoon. Many disciples of the archaic sect also ran over to watch. Most of these people were in the extreme bone realm or the engravement realm. Being able to watch the battles in the mystery realm, especially when it was a battle between geniuses, was naturally very beneficial to their growth. Ling Han soon entered the arena, still wearing his armor. His opponent was Sima Huai. What a coincidence, what a coincidence! Sima Huai's face was a little ugly. If he wanted to get first place, it was inevitable that he would have to pass through Ling Han. However, he had encountered him so soon. His face was still a little dark, because he had not yet thought of how to break through Ling Han's defense. He slowly walked onto the arena and took out an axe. The axe was completely black, but the blade was flashing with a red light, as if it had just drunk its fill of blood. It made people tremble uncontrollably when they saw it. He roared loudly, and brandished his axe in a slash at Ling Han. He used all his strength in this attack. However, at this moment, Ling Han gently took a step to the left, causing his axe to hit nothing. Then, Ling Han punched at him. Fuck, you're being shameless. Sima Huai was about to cry. Previously, when you were fighting with Lu Huayun, didn't you not dodge or evade? Didn't you just rely on your defense to make the opponent admit defeat? Why did you dodge when it came to me? He had not expected that Ling Han would do this at all. So when he swung his axe, he put all his strength into the attack and turned it into an extreme attack. Therefore, he could only watch the punch coming at him. But when the fist hit him, Sima Huai felt as if all his internal organs and lungs were boiling. He could not help but lie on the side and vomit. He struggled to raise his head and looked at Ling Han. Ling Han winked at him. My acting skills are not bad, right? Puff. Sima Huai suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. No, he just fainted. He was so angry. Everyone in the arena was speechless. Ling Han's punch was not amazing at all. He had completely taken advantage of Sima Huai's weakness, which was completely unguarded, to defeat his opponent. Sinister and shameless. The remaining people looked at each other. Were they going to let such a shameless person step on everyone's face to reach the top? The powerhouse in the foundation establishment realm was also speechless. This martial arts competition was to select talents. Although the first place had already been decided to be given to Lu Jun, in fact, if someone could defeat Lu Jun, the primordial true lord would only be happy. This was the ideal disciple in his mind. But if this person was Ling Han, the primordial true lord would definitely grit his teeth. Third senior brother, didn't Master teach us that one's own strength is the way to go? But that person is wearing a set of armor and defeated his opponent with one punch. Among the disciples of the primordial sect who were watching the battle, a young man who was only 13 or 14 years old asked an older senior brother beside him with a dumbfounded face. This. The senior brother was speechless. This was simply ruining his worldview. After the 4 battles in the afternoon, there were only 4 people left who could fight again tomorrow. They were Ling Han, Lu Jun, Kong Rui, and Ma Ru. Ling Han's next opponent was Kong Rui, a young man full of spirit and extraordinary strength. The night passed, and Ling Han still finished his cultivation. After eating breakfast, he arrived at the public square. There were even more people watching the battle today. After the 2 battles in the morning, the finals would be next. The disciples of the sect naturally had to flatter their senior brother Lu Jun. Ling Han took a look. The primordial sect was indeed protecting Lu Jun. This was because Lu Jun's battle was the first, and he had to wait for Lu Jun to finish before starting the second battle. The key was that after the second battle ended, the finals would immediately begin. This was naturally extremely unfair. End of this chapter. Chapter 3590. There was no absolute fairness in the world. This competition was organized by the archaic sect, so it was not surprising that it would be biased towards Lu Jun. Ling Han smiled faintly. Did they think this could stop him from winning the championship? Come on. The first match was between Lu Jun and Ma Ru. Ma Ru could reach the top 4, so he was obviously not weak. He fought fiercely with Lu Jun. But Lu Jun was obviously stronger. He kept suppressing his opponent, and after more than an hour, he finally defeated Ma Ru. Long live Senior Brother Lu. Senior Brother Lu is invincible. Senior Brother Lu can be called number 1 under the immortal path. What Hongtian step? If he dared to participate, he would definitely be easily defeated by Senior Brother Lu. Everyone was cheering for Lu Jun. Lu Jun walked back with an arrogant smile and took out some pills to recover his mystic power as soon as possible. After fighting for an hour, he had consumed quite a lot of his energy. The next match was between Ling Han and Kong Rui. Kong Rui was a young man with a pale face. He seemed to be seriously ill, and his complexion was very bad. He was coughing as he walked, and when he faced Ling Han, he said, "If you admit defeat, I will give you a set of immortal arts." HM? Was this blatant bribery? The supervising foundation establishment cultivator's face was ashen. He wanted to slap Kong Rui to death for daring to bribe him in front of him. But the problem was, if he slapped Kong Rui to death, then wouldn't Ling Han directly enter the finals? One was recuperating, while the other had just experienced a big battle. It was naturally very disadvantageous for Lu Jun. So, he forcibly suppressed the urge to kill, and had to buy more time for Lu Jun. "Don't talk nonsense," he said, "let's begin." Kong Rui sighed and said, "These days, you don't even want money sent to your door?" He still dared to say it? Everyone almost fainted. This person was also very unreliable. Ling Han laughed and said, "Let's fight." "You're wearing a turtle shell? How can you fight?" Kong Rui said and coughed, "Look at me, I'm so sick. It wasn't easy for me to run here. Why don't you take off your armor and treat it as taking care of me?" When everyone heard this, They only felt that this person was also very shameless. You were able to make it to the semifinals. How could your battle prowess be ordinary? Patient? He had never seen a patient who was so good at fighting. Ling Han shook his head. Nothing much. Sigh, you really have no sympathy. Kong Rui shook his head. Suddenly, 2 streams of blood flowed out of his nose, causing him to be shocked. Fuck, I'm bleeding from my nose again. Everyone was surprised. This guy was really a patient. However, Ling Han's expression turned cold. That nosebleed wasn't bright red, but jet black like ink, and there was an indescribable darkness within it. Shio. Kong Rui charged out, his hands clasped together. Boom. Instantly, a black shockwave shot out from his palms, transforming into a black dragon that rumbled toward Ling Han. Dark Dragon's Pine. He roared. Ling Han's vision blurred, as if he really saw a black dragon baring its fangs and brandishing its claws at him. Its entire body was covered in indescribable symbols, as if it wanted to destroy the world. When the black light hit, Ling Han instantly felt that his armor was being corroded by a force. If this armor was only at the level of the mystery-seeking realm, then there would probably be a layer of rust by now. Unfortunately, this was a 1-star artifact, so how could it be destroyed by the mystery-seeking realm? The armor glowed on its own. The golden light illuminated everything, extremely eye-catching in the darkness. Boom! The black shockwave passed, but Ling Han still stood proudly. Kong Rui started coughing again. Freak, really freak. I've already risked my life, but I can't even hurt a single feather of his. Sigh, sad. I'm done playing. Ling Han's expression couldn't help but darken. If you said you couldn't hurt a single feather, then so be it. Why did you have to say feather? Kong Rui really did say he was done playing. He turned around and left decisively. This Dark Dragon's Pine was his greatest killing move, but even his ultimate move with the greatest attack power couldn't break through Ling Han's armor. Continuing to fight would be futile. He might as well admit defeat. Fighting consumed a lot of energy, and he might even get hurt. It wasn't worth it. The foundation-building elite at the side wanted nothing more than to strangle Kong Rui. Was he still a martial artist? Why didn't he have any battle awareness? Oh, retreating without even fighting a single move? He was a complete coward. He looked towards Lu Jun. Even if the latter had taken a spiritual medicine, he'd only recovered 1/3 of his strength at most. What should he do? How could he stall for time? Let's fight. Unexpectedly, Lu Jun stood up and volunteered to fight. The foundation-building elite was a bit hesitant. It was fine if Lu Jun won, but what if he lost? He couldn't bear the responsibility. No matter. Lu Jun had already walked out. He waved his hand, appearing extremely relaxed. This person is just relying on this armor. As long as I can break it, I can suppress him with 1 strike. His right hand shook, and a sword appeared out of thin air. This sword was extremely thin, like a piece of paper. It seemed like it would break with the slightest bit of force. Can ye, I didn't think it would be you standing in front of me, Lu Jun said indifferently. Lu Jun said indifferently, however, no matter who it is, they can only prostrate themselves before me. Ling Han made an inviting gesture and said, please continue your performance. Performance. Lu Jun instantly felt as if he'd received 10,000 points of damage. Was he, the personal disciple of the spirit transformation true lord, a clown, performing in front of him? Looks like you'll have to suffer a bit, he said darkly, and raised the thin sword. Instantly, the entire sword lit up. A celestial tool. Ling Han took a look and could immediately determine that this was a 1-star celestial tool. Having used battle hammers many times, he was no stranger to 1-star celestial tools. Under my unfettered sword, so what if you're wearing armor? Lu Jun said proudly. A celestial tool against a celestial tool, then Ling Han's advantage would be gone. No wonder Lu Jun was so confident. As it turned out, he already had a way to deal with Ling Han. Shua, Lu Jun unsheathed his sword, and a flash of sword chi slashed over extremely fast. Ling Han stretched out his arm to block. Pooh, the sword chi slashed onto the armor. The majority of its power was neutralized, but there was still a portion that managed to penetrate through. He felt as if his skin had been torn open and blood flowed out. Ling Han was shocked. Did a one-star celestial tool have such great power? It wasn't like he hadn't used it before, and he definitely didn't think that the mystery realm could activate a one-star celestial tool with such power. Unless, Ling Han came to a sudden realization. This celestial tool must have been tampered with by the primordial True Lord, which was why it could release power that was above average. However, it couldn't be too strong, or else the cheating would be too obvious, and if word got out, it would be a joke. A dignified spirit transformation True Lord couldn't even afford to lose a 2-star celestial fruit. However, did battle armor only have the advantage of having thick defense? Ling Han charged out, the golden eagle's 18 claws spread out, and his entire person seemed to have transformed into a primordial ferocious bird, attacking Lu Jun. He was a field of dazzling golden light. Phone reading was more refreshing. Chapter 3592. Ling Han successfully obtained the Star Luo Orchid Fruit. When he obtained the immortal fruit, he breathed a sigh of relief. Previously, he was worried that the ancient sect would not keep their promise and not give him the immortal fruit. After all, the martial art competition was just a pretense, and the real purpose was to build momentum for Lord Lu. Of course, capturing Ling Han and recruiting outstanding talents was also done conveniently, killing 3 birds with 1 stone. He forcefully intervened and seized this treasure fruit, which was tantamount to a slap in the face for the ancient sect. Naturally, he was worried that the ancient sect would not keep their promise. He immediately said in his heart. Only by eating it into his stomach would it be the safest. Ling Han ate it in large mouthfuls, but he immediately frowned. The taste of this thing really could not be described as delicious. There was an indescribable sour smell, and the flesh of the fruit was also gritty, not at all smooth and tender. He resisted the urge to spit it out and swallowed the entire fruit into his stomach. Did I eat a fake immortal fruit? Ling Han could not help but think, but before he finished his thought, he immediately felt a world-shaking change in his body. A powerful force surged, causing his life level to rise. One shackle after another was broken, but Ling Han clearly did not open a single new aperture. As such, he could only sit and watch. Whether he used his secret force to guide it or sat down to rest, the change in his life level did not accelerate or slow down in the slightest. It was as if he had become an outsider. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ling Han counted in his heart. More and more shackles were broken, causing him to be filled with joy. This was tantamount to an increase in a small realm, which was tantamount to an additional realm for him. Although it was not as terrifying as the 7 transformations and 7 bones, it was still very beneficial. If he was a 4-star genius before, then now he might have reached 4. 3 stars, or even 4. 5 stars. In less than 20 minutes, the effect of the immortal fruit disappeared. Ling Han smacked his lips. Although the taste was terrible, he did not mind eating another one. If he could, he would eat until he was full. Of course, this was just wishful thinking. Moreover, even if he had an unlimited supply of celestial fruits, there was still a limit to the space he could improve. Even if it was a celestial fruit, the effect would only be the greatest when he consumed the first one. After that, the effect would be halved, and after a few times, the effect would be negligible. Unless he could obtain an even higher grade immortal fruit. Sigh, I'll definitely be able to in the future. Of course, if he could cultivate all 6 levels below the celestial path to perfection, and there was no way for him to advance any further, he would naturally not need to consume any more celestial fruits. Bam! The door was kicked open, and a man strode in. Lu Jun. Just now, Ling Han was experiencing a leap in life level, so he naturally revealed his original appearance. He almost failed to disguise himself in time. Ling Han looked over with an unfriendly gaze. Hand over the Star Luo Orchid Fruit, and I'll give you this sword-controlling technique. Lu Jun tossed out a book, and with a plop, it fell to the ground. Ling Han walked over and picked up the book. This was something that someone had specially delivered to his doorstep, so he naturally had no reason to reject it. Seeing Ling Han put away the cultivation technique, Lu Jun revealed a cold smile. He really was an inexperienced person, being sent off by a sword-controlling technique. He humphed and said, "Where's the star luo orchid fruit?" Ling Han smiled, then pointed at his stomach. "Fuck, you ate it? Fuck, then why did you still dare to put away the sword-controlling technique?" To him, though the sword-controlling technique was not all that precious, it was still a secret technique, and he had paid a price to obtain it. There was no reason for him to give it away for nothing. "Bastard, you dare to trick me?" he shouted in a low voice. Meanwhile, Ling Han had a self-righteous expression and said, "I'm doing this for your own good. That star luo orchid fruit tastes terrible, sour and stinky. If you eat it, you'll definitely vomit. You've gotten a bargain, and you're still trying to show off. Qin Yi, you've gone too far." Lu Jun said coldly. He was thinking, if he suddenly attacked now, would he be able to kill this guy? Hee, we're all family, Jun, don't be rude. With a long laugh, a man descended from the sky. Ling Han was startled. Could this be? He looked over. This man had a jade-like face, looked to be in his 40s, and had an extremely scholarly air. "Master!" Lu Jun hurriedly cupped his fists and saluted, then said, "This person played with disciple like this, disciple can't take it anymore." Lu Jun's master was obviously primordial true monarch. He smiled faintly and said, "Do you think you lost to Qin Yi because he has a battle armor and you don't?" Lu Jun was immediately unconvinced and said, "Of course, in a fair battle, he's definitely not my match." Primordial true monarch shook his head. If the factor of the celestial tool is disregarded, you can indeed tie with Qin Yi. Then it's settled. Lu Jun glared at Ling Han. Primordial sect only had a 2-star celestial tree, and according to Primordial True Monarch, it could only bear 1-star luo orchid fruit every 10 years. After 10 years, perhaps the next star luo orchid fruit would still belong to him, but the effect would be different if he took it while he was on the celestial path and after. Moreover, even if it was the same, he would lose an important leap in life level in these 10 years. Perhaps there would be some difficulties he couldn't break through, and perhaps there would be some strong enemies he couldn't defeat. The stakes were too high. The more he thought, the angrier he became, glaring angrily at Ling Han. Primordial True Monarch smiled faintly and said, "So, in a fair battle, you're not Qin Yi's match." What kind of tongue twister was this? Lu Jun looked at his master in surprise. "You already said, putting aside the factor of the celestial tool, his strength was equal to Ling Han's, so why did you say that he wasn't Ling Han's match in a fair battle?" He was confused. "Idiot, Qin Yi is only in the opening aperture tier." Primordial True Monarch finally said the truth. He was in the spirit transformation tier, so it was very natural for him to see through Ling Han's true cultivation level. Lu Jun instantly sucked in a breath of cold air. What? Ling Han was actually only in the opening aperture tier. How could it be? How could an opening aperture tier fight him to a draw? There couldn't be such a monster in the world. But, would Primordial True Monarch make a mistake and deceive him? He finally understood what Primordial True Monarch really meant when he said that he wasn't Ling Han's match in a fair battle. If his cultivation level was suppressed to the opening aperture tier, how could he possibly be Ling Han's match? The difference wasn't just a little bit, but like the difference between heaven and earth. He was dazed. This blow was too great, and he couldn't accept it. Primordial True Monarch looked at Ling Han and said, "Qin Yi, are you willing to take me as your master?" Ling Han's mind spun quickly, and he cupped his fists, saying, "Of course." Haha. Primordial True Monarch laughed loudly. "Good, good, good. A month later, I'll hold a disciple ceremony for you, and invite the whole world." This disciple's aptitude was too good, and he must use this opportunity to announce it to the whole world, first to show off, and second to tell others not to have any ideas about him. Lu Jun just came back to his senses, and hearing these words, he instantly received a 10,000 critical hits, wanting to vomit blood. Chapter 3593. This disciple of Ling Han's was too monstrous, so the primordial True Lord planned to hold an incredibly grand disciple acceptance ceremony to announce to the world that it was not only the nine-spirit True Lord that had taken in the incomparably talented Hong Tianbu. This also saved Ling Han some trouble, because if he had to go through the formalities of becoming a disciple to the primordial True Sovereign now, it would be too awkward. 1 month's time. Ling Han thought it was enough for him to stroll around the primordial sect a few times, find the treasury, and then make his move. As for Ken Yi, of course, he completely disappeared from then on. Perfect. Although he had to be a thief, Ling Han didn't feel any pressure. This world belonged to the people of Heavenly Sea Planet, and Primordial True Monarch and the others were outsiders. Just because they were imprisoned for 2,000 years, they were qualified to occupy famous mountains, great rivers, and immortal herbs and historical sites. But it was strange. Why didn't these people run away when they were free? The Azure Dragon Empire suppressed them here, and no one came. They must have thought that this cage could last for a long time. This place was destitute, so of course, they didn't need to send people here. But the Azure Dragon Empire couldn't never send people here. When this envoy arrived and found out that the cage was opened and the environment was restored, it would definitely cause a war, right? On the surface, the Azure Dragon Empire had a few sect master-level experts and a venerable in the dark. How could they be a match for Spirit Transformation Realm? So, why didn't Primordial True Monarch leave in a hurry and establish a sect here? This made Ling Han puzzled. Not to mention that they couldn't leave, Spirit Transformation Realm Niu Fong could send Niu Jianhua here. Couldn't Spirit Transformation Realm Lord himself have a way to cross the universe? There must be some profit to be made, and the profit is very big enough to make them take the risk. Ling Han murmured, it must be a peerless cultivation method, such as a sect master-level grimoire, or even a venerable or saint level. Or a peerless immortal plant. It said that Heavenly Sea Planet's quality isn't high, so it was given to the Chen clan. That's because the immortal plants here are transplanted from other planets, and the highest is only 4 stars. But 2,000 years ago, several sect master-level almighty experts walked out of this place. This means that there might be a 5-star immortal medicine here, and the quality of the celestial body might exceed the evaluation. The reason why these spirit transformation perfected lords are staying here is because they want to obtain high-grade immortal herbs. Could there be a mother tree here? A bold idea suddenly flashed through Ling Han's mind. A celestial body could only have one mother tree, but not every celestial body could give birth to a mother tree. There was a very high requirement for the celestial body itself. Logically speaking, the heavenly ocean star could not give birth to a mother tree because the quality was too low. However, the ancestor of the Chen family, Monkey King, and the others had all charged up to the sect leader level. This caused all of this to change. There was one thing that was certain. Over 2,000 years ago, when the Azure Dragon Empire destroyed the Chen clan's empire, they must have searched the entire world, but they didn't find the mother tree or any high-tiered immortal herbs. Is it because the time isn't up yet, so the immortal medicine isn't showing itself? Or perhaps it was not so complicated at all, and the spirit transformation true lords were waiting for the opening of a certain historical site to fish up a fortune before leaving. Ling Han had a headache. He had too little information, and it wasn't enough to piece together the truth. Forget it. It doesn't matter if these spirit transformation true lords are going to fish up a fortune before leaving. I will definitely fish up a fortune before leaving. Ling Han began to walk around the primordial sect. With his current status as a quasi-sect master disciple, no one would dare to stop him wherever he went, except for 3 places. At night, he put on the Void Beast skin and explored the 3 places one by one. The first place was the Spirit Spring. The heaven and earth energy here was extremely dense and had turned into mist. If the Spirit Spring was used to assist in refining elixirs, the effect would be increased by several times or even doubled. Ling Han was envious. This Spirit Spring could be used to refine immortal pills. Although he hadn't stepped into the path of immortality and didn't have the qualifications to refine immortal pills, the day wouldn't be far away. However, this Spirit Spring was really little. A spring mouth was only the size of a bottle mouth, and there was only about half a gourd of liquid inside. It would take a long time to produce a drop. Ling Han didn't make a move immediately. He had to take a look at the other two places first. However, it wasn't easy for him to enter the second place. There was a Foundation establishment stage powerhouse guarding it, who could easily see through his disguise. Ling Han could only go to the third place first. Although there was no powerhouse guarding it, there was a dense array formation flashing, making it impossible to get close at all. Was there a treasure vault hidden in the array formation? Ling Han tried to break it, but this was an immortal path level array formation. It wasn't something he could break with just a few glances. He thought hard and compared it with the things recorded in the Void Beast skin, trying to find a way to break the array formation. After a night, Ling Han had no choice but to retreat. There was still a lot of time. In the morning, he cultivated as usual, but he rested in broad daylight. His mind was filled with that array formation. He activated his eye technique and saw many things. He would go again at night. After 3 days, he finally had some ideas. This array formation wasn't set up by the primordial True Lord or anyone else. It had originally existed. Array Master was an extremely rare profession. The power of heaven and earth was incomparably complicated. Without talent in this aspect, one wouldn't be able to grasp a thing or two even if they exhausted their entire lives. The people here were all suppressed in the cages. If there was an Array Master, would they still be imprisoned? Therefore, Ling Han didn't believe that this array formation was set up now. It had existed for a long time and just hadn't been opened before. This world had experienced too many changes. The power of heaven and earth must have changed drastically, and the array was built on the use of the power of heaven and earth. Therefore, there would definitely be flaws in the array now, and it wouldn't be as perfect as before. I can definitely break it. Another 4 days later, although Ling Han couldn't break the array formation, he ushered in another upgrade in life level. He broke through another 9 apertures, and his cultivation speed increased explosively. I heard that others can only open 1 aperture at a time, but I open 9 apertures at a time. I'm really awesome, Ling Han said to himself without humility. After opening another 9 apertures, Ling Han immediately realized the importance of the enlightenment state. If the speed at which he absorbed the power of heaven and earth in the engravement state was said to be 10, then after opening 9 apertures, this speed became 15, and now it was 20. With this comparison, one could see the impact of the number of apertures on cultivation. Those who broke through after opening only 36 apertures were much slower than those who were at the second and third stage in terms of cultivation speed. Moreover, this was an eternal difference. There's also the hidden aperture, so the difference will be even greater. Ling Han was even more determined to open the hidden aperture. This wasn't just a matter of increasing his battle power, but it had incomparably far-reaching significance. I'll go study the array again. Chapter 3594. A month's time was actually very fast. Ling Han felt a sense of urgency. He had to open the array and leave the archaic sect before the apprenticeship ceremony began. If he really had to become the apprentice of an archaic true sovereign in front of everyone, he would feel extremely disgusted. Even if he was only using an incarnation. Therefore, if he really couldn't break the array, he could only dig the spirit spring and run away. There were still 15 days, 10 days, 7 days to the month. Ling Han finally had a major breakthrough. He decided to try it tonight. Late at night, he once again came before the array. He used his eye technique to observe again and nodded. There was originally no flaw here, but the upheaval of heaven and earth has caused a certain amount of damage to the array. Therefore, even if there is no flaw, there is still a flaw. He leaped and entered the array. The light of the array rose, but it did not attack him. Ling Han revealed a smile. His judgment was correct. He was also a little afraid. If he had made a mistake and triggered the array to attack, he could only put on the armor to save his life. Whether he could succeed or not was still a question. He leaped up and stepped forward. The array still did not activate, as if it did not exist. Ling Han activated his eye technique and looked for the place where the power of heaven and earth changed. This was the node, and also the flaw of the array. Step by step, it took him nearly half an hour to finally walk out of the array. In front of him was a small house, located in the center of the entire array. Ling Han gave a light push and the door opened. Of course, with such a powerful array protecting it, there was still a need to lock it. The house was decorated with night pearls, so the house was not dark at night. Soft light sprinkled down, like moonlight. Treasures. Apart from these pearls, it could be said that the four walls of the house were bare. There was only a stone table and a stone stool in the middle, and on the stone table was a piece of paper. It should also be animal skin, giving off a thick feeling. Could it be another piece of void beast skin? But it was too small. With hope in his heart, Ling Han walked to the stone table and sat down. Then he looked at the beast's skin. He immediately revealed a look of surprise. This was a spirit map that communicated with a type of destructive dark energy. After taking a look, Ling Han felt as though his soul had been sucked into a strange space. There was an incomparably dark energy everywhere. No matter what it attacked, everything would be destroyed. The planes in his body vibrated, as if they were resonating, and also as if they were rejoicing. Ling Han's body trembled, and his soul immediately returned to his body. He staggered and almost fell. What happened? When he saw it, he couldn't help but be overwhelmed with shock, because he had unknowingly used both hands to support himself on the stone table. But now, the place where he was pressing down was missing two palm-shaped pieces, and there was an additional layer of incomparably dark energy on his hands. One had to know that he didn't use any secret power at all. With just a press, two pieces of the stone table disappeared. What kind of destructive power is this? Ling Han couldn't help but stretch out his hand and press it on the stone table. Wherever his palm touched, the stone table immediately disappeared, as if it had never existed. Is this the power of annihilation? Ling Han was shocked. When did he master that spirit map? It could actually communicate with this destructive, or was it dark, or annihilation energy? With a thought, he dispersed the energy in his hand and looked at the spirit map again. Strictly speaking, he didn't completely master this spirit map. He only learned a little. Being able to draw a part of the destructive energy, let's call it the destructive energy. This thing was really full of destruction. Ling Han continued to watch, and he was once again pulled into that dark space. His consciousness was separated from his physical body, and only when the planes in his body trembled did he wake up again. Then, his control over the destructive energy had increased slightly. Strange, it seemed that it wasn't him who controlled the destructive energy, but the planes in his body. Ling Han scratched his head. He was able to break through the 7 transformations, 7 bones, and 7 veins because of the life force of the planes in his body. But now, he had inexplicably controlled this destructive energy, and it was actually the work of the planes in his body. How could he not feel strange? If it wasn't for the fact that these planes and these creatures were all born by him, he would have suspected that he had fallen into the trap of some powerful existence. Even though his soul would always be broken, Ling Han still couldn't control himself and continued to study this spirit map. After a few muddle-headed times, Ling Han was surprised to find that this spirit map was actually incomplete. It might only be half, or even a third. He had learned it, but he was unable to activate the destructive energy to the extreme. Ling Han wanted to put away the spirit map, but he found that this thing couldn't be stored in a spatial magic tool. No wonder this spirit map is placed here. He nodded. It was precisely because he couldn't store it in a spatial magic tool and the primordial True Lord wanted to study it, so he could only set up a formation to protect it. Therefore, there were tables and stools here for the True Lord to study here. Look at this table and stool. There's no dust on it. It's obvious that the primordial True Lord has been studying this spirit map all this time. In other words, he hasn't mastered this destructive energy yet. Strange, I learned it in an instant. What's so difficult about it? No, I didn't learn it myself. It's my body that learned it, so I naturally learned it. It's as if I was born to know it. Fuck, could it be that this spirit map has something to do with the God's Stone? Ling Han's head was about to explode. A piece of God's Stone could nurture an incomparably complicated Yuan world. This was an extremely strange thing in itself. Then this beast's skin, or this destructive energy, was related to the god's stone, so it must have a great origin. I can't stay here. Ling Han put away the beast's skin, stuffed it into his bosom, and left. After stealing such an important thing, he obviously couldn't stay in the primordial sect any longer. This thing could be found with a search. Then let's go. Ling Han made another trip to the spirit spring, took out the spirit spring, and stored it in his spatial magic tool. If he wanted to fill it up again, it would probably take a few years. He left. Ling Han used the void beast skin to quietly descend the mountain. Then he returned to his original appearance and swaggered out. Xiao, a figure flew down and blocked in front of him. It was an old servant under Niu Jianhua. However, he clearly didn't recognize Ling Han. Uncle, what can I do for you? Ling Han asked with a smile. Go. The old man only swept a glance over Ling Han's body, then waved his hand, looking impatient. Oh. Ling Han nodded and strode away. Wait. The old man caught up again. He looked at Ling Han a few more times and frowned. Your back looks a little familiar. Ling Han didn't bat an eyelid. Uncle, have you seen me before? The old man shook his head again. Feeling that he was being overly suspicious, he waved his hand again. Chapter 3596. Don't go, don't go. The silver-haired lowly chased after him. Handsome big brother, what's your name? Ling Han was amused. This little girl matured too early and was too unafraid of strangers. Didn't you think that I might kidnap and sell you? Such a delicate and beautiful little girl could almost be compared to Hu Niu when she was young. My name is Ling Han. He smiled. And you? I'm a great demon king. The silver-haired lowly puffed out her chest. Ling Han chuckled and didn't say anything. Seeing that you want to know so much, I'll tell you kindly. The silver-haired lowly snorted. My name is Tang Yun, but my family calls me Little Milk Candy. Ling Han couldn't help but laugh. Little Milk Candy, it was quite an appropriate name. Little Milk Candy, why did you run out alone? He asked. Tang Yun, immediately put on a wary expression and took a step back. Are you trying to kidnap and sell me? I'm telling you, I'm very powerful, you'll be in trouble. Then she burst into tears. Mommy, I want mommy, the people outside are so scary, they want to kidnap and sell cute, beautiful, obedient, and filial. She thought for a moment and counted with her fingers. Smart, brave Little Milk Candy. Ling Han's face darkened. What was she talking about? No one is kidnapping and selling you, don't worry. He sighed, feeling a headache coming on. You really don't know how to kidnap and sell Little Milk Candy? The silver-haired lowly tilted her head and looked at Ling Han. Ling Han shook his head, then muttered, You have to be able to sell me. Wha? Tang Yun, cried again and pointed at Ling Han. You really want to sell me? Woo, I'm so pitiful. She peeled the milk candy and ate it. After chewing, she stopped crying since there were no tears. Then you have to find a better family and have candy to eat every day. Ling Han's face darkened even more. I said I'm not selling, Tang Yuner shrugged. How boring. I'm not playing anymore. I think it's quite interesting. Crunch crunch. She chewed on the milk candy, looking very relaxed. Ling Han was sure that this little lowly was definitely not from Heavenly Ocean Star, but from another star. However, her background should be more powerful, so she came on a shuttle. Did you run away from home? He asked. The little lowly turned pale with fright. How did you know? Did you secretly follow me? Did you want to kidnap me for a long time? She was extremely narcissistic. I can't help it. Who asked me to be so cute, beautiful, obedient, and filial? She forgot her lines again. Smart and brave, Ling Han said on her behalf. Yes, Little Milk Candy is just that outstanding. Little Lowly nodded vigorously. You seem to be going in the wrong direction. Weren't you talking about kidnapping and trafficking just now? It's almost time to go back. My family will be worried, Ling Han said. Although Niu Jianhua had been beaten by him the moment he arrived and robbed clean, that was because the latter deserved it. But facing a little lowly who had run away from home, Ling Han naturally could not bear to make a move on her. Tang Yun shook her head vigorously, and her beautiful silver hair danced like a fairy. I don't want to. Mom scolded me, Dad didn't help me, and Grandpa isn't here. I want to run away from home, and they are worried to death. Running away from home after scolding? You are usually so spoiled. Ling Han shook his head. How did your mom scold you? I didn't finish eating, and Mom scolded me. Dad is even worse, he didn't help me. Little Loli said angrily. Ling Han couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. This was a little ancestor. Hurry up, continue to use that shuttle to go back, he said. No, the energy is used up. Little Loli shook her head, and then grabbed the corner of Ling Han's clothes. Uncle, let me be your daughter for a few days. I am so cute, beautiful, well-behaved, and filial. Stop, stop, stop. Ling Han quickly waved his hand. I can't afford to raise you. Little Loli's snacks were all made of golden cloud cow's milk. He couldn't afford it even if he killed her. I prepared a lot of snacks. Tang Yunhe looked proud. Since you are running away from home, how can you not prepare? What she said seemed very reasonable, but why didn't you bring more things like energy blocks? The shuttle would be useless after half the journey. Your spatial artifact is already filled with snacks. Ling Han bared his teeth. If not snacks, then what? Little Loli retorted with a face full of righteousness. All right, you win. Ling Han sighed and said, all right, you will follow me for a few days. When the shuttle can be used again, immediately go home. Although little Loli's brain circuit was relatively strange, she was clearly not stupid. At this time, she did not want to disobey Ling Han. She was secretly proud in her heart. Wasn't it up to her to decide when the shuttle could be used again? Her great dream was to establish a kingdom and then find many handsome men to line up to feed her. Not good. Ling Han's expression suddenly changed. He sensed several powerful auras approaching. He was just about to put on the void beast skin, but it was already too late. Xiao, 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 only to see 5 figures already appear. Niu Jianhua and his 4 old servants. They were really lingering. Why did they chase after him again? Ling Han knew that they must have been attracted by the commotion caused by the little Loli descending the shuttle, but these people were actually in the vicinity, which still gave him a shock. Young master, it's him. Wang Quan immediately pointed at Ling Han and shouted. He really hated Ling Han to the core, causing him to be insulted by Niu Jianhua in every way, almost doubting life. Meanwhile, Niu Jianhua looked at Ling Han. He was a bit puzzled. His party was attracted by the shooting star, but he didn't expect to so coincidentally run into Ling Han. However, if Ling Han was Qin Yi, then this guy's appearance here was not strange. Previously, when he descended, didn't this guy also immediately come to give him a beating? If it's really you, you'll regret coming to this world. Niu Jianhua took another look at little Loli, and couldn't help but be startled. How could there be such a beautiful little girl? In theory, foundation-building cultivators had the right to traverse the universe, but with the speed of foundation-building cultivators, it was impossible to reach any star suitable for cultivation even if they flew until their lifespan ran out. Even if it was him, perfected Lord Spirit transformation had done something to him, and it had taken him almost a year to get here. This little Loli was definitely a real Loli, and not an old monster who could not grow up, so behind her definitely stood a spirit transformation true monarch. Why wasn't it a small realization tier powerhouse? Because Heavenly Ocean Star's level was very low, so how could a sect master level powerhouse take a fancy to it? No, although sect master level powerhouses didn't take a fancy to it, there was no problem at all for their descendants to come here to gain experience. Niu Jianhua couldn't be sure just how powerful this little Loli's background was. He decided to put this matter aside for now, and first figure out Ling Han's true identity. You're called Ling Han? He asked Ling Han. End of chapter. Chapter 3597. Ling Han was calm and composed. He nodded and said, I am. What can I do for you? You're very much like someone, Niu Jianhua said coldly. I'm such a handsome man. There's actually someone who looks like me, Ling Han said in surprise. Pooh! The little lowly immediately burst into laughter. She had never seen such a shameless person. On the other hand, Niu Jianhua's face twitched slightly. Why did he feel enraged when this person spoke? From this aspect, he really was similar to that Kan Yi. He would rather kill wrongly than let them go. Get him, he ordered. Yes, young master. The four old men looked at Ling Han in disdain. Any one of them was confident that they could deal with a mere enlightening realm cultivator. Therefore, they were all slowly approaching, not anxious at all. Instead, they were putting immense pressure on Ling Han. Ling Han's mind raced. Was he using so close, yet worlds apart to run away? But let's not talk about whether or not so close, yet worlds apart would be stopped by experts of the immortal path. Even if they weren't, if he successfully escaped and then used the void beast skin to wrap his body, what would happen to this little lowly? Would she become his punching bag? You guys want to kidnap the cute, beautiful, obedient, filial, smart, and brave little Tang Tang, the little lowly said, trembling. She looked like she had been frightened, but when Ling Han looked at her, there was not the slightest bit of fear in her eyes, but rather excitement. As an expert who specialized in scamming people, Ling Han was 100% sure that this little lowly was going to cause trouble. The baddie has appeared. Summon the dragon god and transform. The little lowly shouted as she jumped. She even struck a very embarrassing pose, but inconceivably, a silver light surged out of her body. More accurately, it was a button that enveloped her. When the silver light dissipated, the little lowly was already wrapped in a set of silver battle armor. Seeing this, Niu Jianhua's first reaction was that this was the second armor he had looted. However, he immediately rejected the idea. This set of armor was completely different. Although it was also silver in color, there were extremely exaggerated and childish patterns drawn on it. He would never wear it even if he was beaten to death. Shameless kidnappers, I'm going to establish a large kingdom and become a great demon king. You can all be my slaves. The little lowly was incomparably excited as she charged out. With the help of the armor, her speed was astonishingly fast. With a bang, she knocked an old man into the air. Amazing! This is extreme Dao power. Young master, watch out. The remaining 3 old men cried out one after another. The old man who was sent flying also crawled up with blood at the corner of his mouth. He was a Heaven Foundation establishment cultivator, so being hit by the power of the extreme Dao was naturally enough to make him suffer. Niu Jianhua shivered. Firstly, the little lowly's current battle prowess was extremely shocking. Secondly, the little lowly clearly hadn't stepped onto the path of immortality yet, but with the help of the battle armor, she possessed the power of the extreme Dao. What did this mean? The quality of this armor was astonishingly high, far surpassing the 2 he had. His heart itched a little. If he could obtain it, to what extent would his battle prowess increase? Cauldron forging? But for a person who could casually take out this kind of battle armor, how powerful would the power behind him be? Moreover, could a little girl run out alone? The adults of her family would definitely be nearby. If he forcefully seized it, then he'd provoke the adults behind him, and he'd be out of luck. How could he possibly think that this little lowly was actually a problem child who ran away from home? Let's go! He shouted lightly and took the lead to leave. He only suspected that Ling Han was Kan Yi, and offending a mysterious and powerful force for this suspicion was obviously not something a smart person like him would do. Now you know how powerful this demon king is, right? The little lowly bounced up and down, appearing extremely excited. Ling Han was speechless. Niu Jianhua could be considered as having an unlucky year, actually running into such an unreliable yet incomparably powerful little lowly. Silver light flickered on the little lowly's body, and the battle armor actually began to flow like water, then turned into a flying shuttle. It changed into the wrong shape, the little lowly mumbled. Then the flying shuttle changed again, and it suddenly disappeared. Ling Han looked at the little lowly, and didn't say anything. Were you scared by this demon king's battle prowess? Tang Yun said proudly. Ling Han snorted and said, Who was the one who said that the flying shuttle's energy was already used up? The battle armor from before was clearly a kind of flying shuttle form. How could it have used up its energy? The little lowly stuck out her tongue. Crap, she'd been exposed. She revealed a fawning smile. Handsome big brother, what are you saying? I don't understand. Hurry up and go back. Ling Han waved his hands. It was better for this problem child to hurry up and go back. If she really provoked a sect master level or even a venerable level powerhouse, then it'd be a big joke. Not going back. The little lowly pouted in a fit of pique. Ling Han said again, but she ignored Ling Han. Truly a little child. Ling Han patted his butt. Since you're not obedient, I can't be bothered to care about you. He took a step and walked away. After a few steps, Ling Han turned around and saw the little lowly following behind him. When she saw him looking over, she hurriedly turned her head away, looking as if she didn't want to talk to him at all. Ling Han walked again, but the little lowly still followed closely. Why are you following me? Ling Han stopped walking and asked. Tang Yun, on the other hand, wasn't angry and said, because handsome big brother, you're a good person. What kind of experience was it to be labeled as a good person by a 6 or 7-year-old lowly? Ling Han shook his head. How do you know I'm a good person? Let me tell you, I'm a big bad person. I've killed people, set fires, and sold children. This time, the little lowly wasn't afraid at all. She only giggled and said, it sounds fun. When are we going to kill people and set fires? Killing people will cause blood. I'm scared. Setting fires is fun, and I often do it. It's just that every time I do it, I get spanked by my mother. Ling Han slapped his forehead. This wasn't an ordinary problem child, but a super problem child. What kind of sin did he commit to actually run into such a little ancestor? Sigh. He sighed. Sigh. The little lowly also learned to sigh. It seemed like he had been blackmailed. All right, I'll take care of you for a few days, but you have to get in touch with your family as soon as possible and let them pick you up, Ling Han said. Right now, he also didn't feel at ease letting the little lowly go alone, because who knew where she would fly to? All right, since you insist on taking care of me, I'll reluctantly let you take care of me for 2 days. The little lowly had a very helpless look on her face. Don't act like you're taking advantage of me. Ling Han only felt a toothache. Hee hee. Tang Yun revealed a flattering smile. After walking for a while, the little lowly said that her legs were sore and wanted Ling Han to carry her. After walking for a while, she was hungry again. He really picked up a little ancestor. Ling Han secretly regretted it. Why was he so curious before and insisted on seeing what was inside the meteor? Handsome guy, look at the meteor. The little lowly suddenly shouted. Chapter 3598. Damn, some unknown halo of mine is starting to work again. Ling Han looked up at the sky, only to find that it was really just a meteor and not another visitor from outer space, which made him heave a sigh of relief. His luck was not so bad after all. 2 days later, Ling Han returned to the imperial city, his head swollen. Tang Yun was really a problem child, and she was super problematic. Who knew how much trouble she caused along the way? The silver-haired little lowly also seemed very unhappy. Along the way, she wanted to set fire and rob excitedly, but was stopped by Ling Han, which made her too unhappy. She was here to be the great demon king. Ling Han felt that it was necessary to enlighten this little lowly. There were so many people in the imperial capital. If this little lowly really had fun, how terrible the damage would be. The key was that there was most likely a sect master-level power behind her, which would cause huge trouble. Little Milk Candy, why do you want to be the great demon king? Ling Han asked. Because Grandpa is the old demon king, so I want to be the great demon king. The little lowly said while looking around. When she saw someone selling candied haws on the street, she couldn't help but drool. She had never had any resistance to sweet things. Oh, this problem was with the little lowly's grandfather. What did your grandfather do to be called the Demon King? Ling Han asked again. The little lowly giggled. Grandpa calls himself the Heavenly Demon, and he specializes in making enemies of those who claim to be righteous. When he was young, he captured many saintesses and slept with them. Now they have all become my grandaunts. Ling Han couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. This child was indeed precocious, and her maternal grandfather had actually slept with the holy daughters of the various great sects as his wives, yet he was still alive and well. Just how powerful was he? My mother is my grandfather's only daughter. My mother is too bad. She secretly ran away from home when she was a child and entered the sect where my father was. The two of them loved each other very much, and they had an adulterous relationship. The little loli took a few skewers of candied haws by herself. Ling Han broke out in a cold sweat again. This little loli liked to use idioms, but she was just randomly using them. How could she describe her parents like that? Furthermore, this little loli's tendency to run away from home is actually hereditary. Wait, how old was your mother when she left home? About 15 or 16 years old. The little loli bit on a candied haw while counting her fingers, which reminded Ling Han of second baby who counted idiots. Ling Han heaved a sigh of relief. That was more normal, unlike this little loli, who was completely acting out of spite. He paid the money, which made the little loli very unhappy. He was the demon king, how could he give money to eat? Ling Han laughed heartily. Don't worry, the capital is full of rich playboys. When we have time, I'll take you to fight them one by one. Wow. The little loli put the candied haws in her mouth and clapped her hands. The little devil king is here. Are you afraid? Ling Han brought the little loli to the Foreign Affairs Department. The little loli grabbed the corner of Ling Han's clothes with one hand, looking a little scared. Damn, she was pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. Ling Han began to regret bringing the little loli back to the capital was most likely a very wrong decision. Hey, what a beautiful little girl. Xian Yuan Dinghua happened to walk out and said without thinking, "You've got an illegitimate daughter after a trip outside." I'm not a beautiful little girl. The little loli hurriedly corrected him. I'm a beautiful, cute, obedient, filial, smart, and brave little candy. Xian Yuan Dinghua was stunned. After a while, he said, Ling Han, this little girl can't be an old monster in disguise, right? You're an old monster. How am I old? The little loli was very dissatisfied. She pointed at Xian Yuan Dinghua and shouted, Super Lightning Cannon, Level 1 ready, Level 2 ready, fire. Bang. A beam of light rushed out of her palm at an astonishing speed and hit Xian Yuan Dinghua in an instant. Fuck you. Xian Yuan Dinghua didn't even have time to dodge. He let out a miserable shriek as he was sent flying by the beam of light, crashing heavily into the wall. Crack, 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 the wall immediately began to crack. Fortunately, it hadn't collapsed. The little loli giggled and became harmless again. She obediently ate the candied hawthorn. Ling Han did not stop her. The power of the cannon was only at the level of the secret-seeking realm. It was not enough to kill Xian Yuan Dinghua. It was good to let this guy suffer a little, so he would not dare to provoke the little loli in the future. Dead. After a series of shouts, 7 children ran out. After such a long time, their size had not changed at all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The little loli could not help but open her mouth, even forgetting to eat the candied hawthorn. So powerful. So many children at once. Ling Han, I underestimated you. Finally, she looked up at Ling Han and said, Underestimated me? Ling Han looked at the little loli and did not ask further. His intuition told him that it was not a good thing. Princess Bai Xiao also came out. When she saw that Ling Han was safe and sound, she breathed a sigh of relief. When she saw the little loli again, her beautiful eyes could not help but brighten. She had never seen such a beautiful little girl before. She was like a fairy carved from jade. Are you jealous that little milk candy is prettier than you? The little loli giggled. Ugly, you can only think about it. Princess Bai Xiao's face immediately darkened. This little girl was beautiful, but her mouth was too sarcastic. Don't be rude. Call me big sister, Ling Han reprimanded. Tang Yun pursed her lips. She looked very reluctant, but still said, Ugly big sister. Fine, you might as well not call me that. Where did you find this child? Princess Bai Xiao asked. She was also full of curiosity. Didn't Ling Han go to participate in the martial arts competition? Why did he bring a child back? I said that he fell from the sky and I picked him up. Do you believe me? Ling Han said with a smile. Princess Bai Xiao only chuckled and even rolled her eyes at Ling Han. All right, I know you don't believe me. Tang Yun, on the other hand, became interested in the 7 milk babies. She chattered with the 7 milk babies. No one knew what she said, but they seemed to have already become good friends. Ling Han gritted his teeth. The 7 Calabash brothers were not easy to deal with. Together with a little lowly who wanted to see the world in chaos, their destructive power had increased by tons. However, these little girls could not be locked up, so he could only watch over them. Has anything major happened these days? Ling Han asked Princess Bai Xiao. Yes. Princess Bai Xiao nodded. Right now, all the major forces are expanding their territories, forming a super force led by the 9 Spirit Lord and the other 3 Spirit Transformation Realms. The remaining sects have all submitted to them, and they have almost divided up the world. According to the scouts, these forces have been sending people to search. They seem to be looking for something. Chapter 3600. Bam! The shuttle directly hit the ground and immediately caused terrible damage. With the shuttle as the center, a huge pit appeared on the ground nearby, and the energy waves were still spreading into the distance, and the flames were monstrous. Ling Han was speechless. He rubbed the little girl's head and said, "Can you be more reliable? How could you fall asleep during the landing?" The little lowly's eyes were hazy, and saliva was still dripping from the corner of her mouth. Don't be noisy. I want to sleep. If I don't sleep well, I'll be stunted. Ling Han sat there. Without the little lowly's control, he could not open the shuttle at all. At this moment, a black object suddenly appeared on the window of the flying shuttle. What the hell? Ling Han was shocked. This thing actually had eyes, and it was glaring angrily at him. Bam! That thing patted the window of the flying shuttle and opened its mouth as if it was saying something. However, the flying shuttle was shuttling through the starry sky. Of course, it was airtight and sound could not be transmitted. Otherwise, Ling Han and the little lowly would have been dead long ago. Oh, so it was a person, but his face was covered in soot. Ling Han could only see that the man's mouth was open, but he didn't know what he was saying. In short, he must be very angry. Although his face was black, he could still see it from his expression. Looking at the other party's posture, it seemed that he wanted him to go out and fight him one-on-one. Ling Han shrugged, indicating that there was nothing he could do. This naturally made the man even more furious. He no longer used his hand to slap the shuttle. Instead, he took out a sword and slashed at the shuttle. However, that person had obviously made a grave mistake. The flying shuttle was definitely a secret treasure of the sect master level. It was just that it was limited by the little lowly's strength, so it could only unleash the power of the extreme path. However, now that there was no one to command it and it was being attacked, it possessed even more terrifying might. With a slash of the sword, the veined patterns on the flying shuttle lit up, and the person's sword was immediately shattered. Damn, that person was flabbergasted. Then he looked at Ling Han with a face full of bitterness and hatred. You bastard! Not only did you smash him with the flying shuttle, you even sat there and didn't come out. You deliberately mocked me, causing me to break another magic tool. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Ling Han made a helpless expression. This had nothing to do with him. Noisy! Little lowly woke up. She was woken up by the sound of the man knocking on the window. She immediately looked at the man with a bitter expression. How dare you interrupt my sleep? Don't you know that women don't sleep well, their skin will deteriorate? She was a little beauty, but in the future, she would become a great beauty and bring disaster to the world. I'll beat you to death, you bastard. She was enraged and controlled the shuttle to attack that person. Shio shio shio. Beams of light shot towards that person. However, if she were to personally control it, the power of the flying shuttle would be much weaker. Hence, that person could completely wander around freely. However, he was completely unable to retaliate because he had already tried it earlier. When the artifact slashed onto the flying shuttle, it only shattered on its own. Right now, that person's heart was definitely filled with a myriad of emotions. How wronged he was. He was cultivating here, but who would have thought that a meteor would come crashing down on his head? Because it was a crucial moment in his cultivation, his reaction was a beat slower, and as a result, he was hit head-on. Fortunately, his strength was tyrannical. He was only covered in dirt. When he was about to angrily denounce him, the result was good. Not only did his dermic armament shatter, but he was also shot by a little lowly and had to dodge here and there. Just thinking about it made him so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. Who did he offend? Enough. Ling Han persuaded little lowly. Can you talk to him? Little lowly shot a few more beams of light before stopping reluctantly. After fiddling with it for a while, she said, "It's done." Ling Han said, "Friend, I'm really sorry. We didn't mean to hit you." That person said unhappily, "Even if you didn't mean to, you still hit so accurately." What a deep resentment, but this was really a pure coincidence. Look, when little lowly went to Heavenly Ocean Star, she also hit him head-on. Ling Han looked at Tang Yun. "Did you hit me on purpose back then?" Little lowly hurriedly shook her head, looking very innocent. Ling Han was full of suspicion. This girl's words should be discounted by 30%. "Then how are you going to compensate me?" the victim outside asked. Ling Han smiled. "We don't have money, so we can only say sorry." That person was almost angered to death. "Is this the attitude you use to solve a problem?" "We really don't have money," little lowly added. "Are the adults and the children both stingy?" That person was speechless. Moreover, he couldn't do anything about this flying shuttle dermic artifact. It seemed like he could only swallow this loss. Ling Han gestured to little lowly. Little lowly opened the flying shuttle, and the two of them jumped down. The person opposite didn't make a move. Although he could see at a glance that Ling Han and little lowly hadn't set foot on the immortal path, to be able to possess such a flying shuttle dermic artifact, their background must be incomparably shocking. "Sorry, I really didn't mean to hit you." Ling Han smiled. That person sighed. Although he was hit head-on because of Ling Han and little lowly, he was the one who caused the dermic artifact to shatter later. So strictly speaking, the other party didn't do much wrong. "Forget it, I'm just unlucky." He was quite open-minded. Ling Han said, "I'm Ling Han, and this is Tang Yun. How should I address you, brother?" That person took out a sweat towel and clean water. As he cleaned up, he said, "I'm Li Xingchen." "So it's brotherly." Ling Han cupped his hands. Li Xingchen had already cleaned up his face. When Ling Han and little lowly saw him, they both said, "Oh." This dark-skinned guy was actually a pretty boy. TSK, they really couldn't tell. Little lowly's eyes instantly lit up. "Oh, so it's a handsome guy. Handsome guy, do you want some candy?" She took out a milk candy and shook it in front of Li Xingchen. Li Xingchen's face couldn't help but darken. "I'm not a 3-year-old kid. You actually dare to trick me with candy?" Don't bother with this little brat." Ling Han laughed. "Brotherly, I have something to ask you." Li Xingchen wasn't in a good mood. "You guys hit me and caused me to lose a dermic artifact, and you actually want to ask me about something? No way, I won't do it. Handsome guy, you have to think carefully." Little lowly patted the flying shuttle with her hand, overflowing with the intention of threatening him. Li Xingchen was speechless. "Are you really a kid? You're too precocious." He sighed and said, "What do you want to know?" It was mainly because he found Ling Han pleasing to the eye. Otherwise, he could just turn around and leave. As a cultivator of the immortal path, would he be afraid of two mortals? The place where the power of the 5 elements is the densest. "Oh, you want to refine the 5 elements fortune pill?" Li Xingchen immediately reacted. Ling Han glanced at little lowly. Fortunately, although this girl was unreliable, she didn't deliberately trick him out to play. He nodded. End of chapter. Chapter 3601. Bam! The shuttle directly hit the ground and immediately caused terrible damage. With the shuttle as the center, a huge pit appeared on the ground nearby, and the energy waves were still spreading into the distance, and the flames were monstrous. Ling Han was speechless. He rubbed the little girl's head and said, "Can you be more reliable? How could you fall asleep during the landing?" The little lowly's eyes were hazy, and saliva was still dripping from the corner of her mouth. "Don't be noisy. I want to sleep. If I don't sleep well, I'll be stunted." Ling Han sat there. Without the little lowly's control, he could not open the shuttle at all. At this moment, a black object suddenly appeared on the window of the flying shuttle. What the hell? Ling Han was shocked. This thing actually had eyes, and it was glaring angrily at him. Bam! That thing patted the window of the flying shuttle and opened its mouth as if it was saying something. However, the flying shuttle was shuttling through the starry sky. Of course, it was airtight and sound could not be transmitted. Otherwise, Ling Han and the little lowly would have died long ago. Oh, so it was a person, but his face was covered in soot. Ling Han could only see that the man's mouth was open, but he didn't know what he was saying. In short, he must be very angry. Although his face was black, he could still see it from his expression. Looking at the other party's posture, it seemed that he wanted him to go out and fight him one-on-one. Ling Han shrugged, indicating that there was nothing he could do. This naturally made the man even more furious. He no longer used his hand to slap the shuttle. Instead, he took out a sword and slashed at the shuttle. However, that person had obviously made a grave mistake. The flying shuttle was definitely a secret treasure of the sect master level. It was just that it was limited by the little lowly's strength, so it could only unleash the power of the extreme path. However, now that there was no one to command it and it was being attacked, it possessed even more terrifying might. With a slash of the sword, the veined patterns on the flying shuttle lit up, and the person's sword was immediately shattered. Damn. That person was flabbergasted. Then he looked at Ling Han with a face full of bitterness and hatred. "You bastard! Not only did you smash him with the flying shuttle, you even sat there and didn't come out. You deliberately mocked me, causing me to break another magic tool. Damn it, damn it, damn it." Ling Han made a helpless expression. This had nothing to do with him. Noisy! Little lowly woke up. She was woken up by the sound of the man knocking on the window. She immediately looked at the man with a bitter expression. "How dare you interrupt my sleep? Don't you know that women don't sleep well, their skin will deteriorate?" She was a little beauty, but in the future, she would become a great beauty and bring disaster to the world. "I'll beat you to death, you bastard." She was enraged and controlled the shuttle to attack that person. Shio shio shio. Beams of light shot towards that person. However, if she were to personally control it, the power of the flying shuttle would be much weaker. Hence, that person could completely wander around freely. However, he was completely unable to retaliate because he had already tried it earlier. When the artifact slashed onto the flying shuttle, it only shattered on its own. Right now, that person's heart was definitely filled with a myriad of emotions. How wronged he was. He was cultivating here, but who would have thought that a meteor would come crashing down on his head? Because it was a crucial moment in his cultivation, his reaction was a beat slower, and as a result, he was hit head-on. Fortunately, his strength was tyrannical. He was only covered in dirt. When he was about to angrily denounce him, the result was good. Not only did his dermic armament shatter, but he was also shot by a little lowly and had to dodge here and there. Just thinking about it made him so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. Who did he offend? Enough, enough. Ling Han persuaded little lowly. "Can you talk to him?" Little lowly shot a few more beams of light before stopping reluctantly. After fiddling with it for a while, she said, "It's done." Ling Han said, "Friend, I'm really sorry. We didn't mean to hit you." That person said unhappily, "Even if you didn't mean to, you still hit so accurately." What a deep resentment, but this was really a pure coincidence. Look, when little lowly went to Heavenly Ocean Star, she also hit him head-on. Ling Han looked at Tang Yun. "Did you hit me on purpose back then?" Little lowly hurriedly shook her head, looking very innocent. Ling Han was full of suspicion. This girl's words should be discounted by 30%. "Then how are you going to compensate me?" the victim outside asked. Ling Han smiled. "We don't have money, so we can only say sorry." That person was almost angered to death. Is this the attitude you use to solve a problem? We really don't have money, little Loli added. Are the adults and the children both stingy? That person was speechless. Moreover, he couldn't do anything about this flying shuttle dermic artifact. It seemed like he could only swallow this loss. Ling Han gestured to little Loli. Little Loli opened the flying shuttle, and the two of them jumped down. The person opposite didn't make a move. Although he could see at a glance that Ling Han and little Loli hadn't set foot on the immortal path, to be able to possess such a flying shuttle dermic artifact, their background must be incomparably shocking. Sorry, I really didn't mean to hit you. Ling Han smiled. That person sighed. Although he was hit head-on because of Ling Han and little Loli, he was the one who caused the dermic artifact to shatter later. So strictly speaking, the other party didn't do much wrong. Forget it, I'm just unlucky. He was quite open-minded. Ling Han said, I'm Ling Han, and this is Tang Yun. How should I address you, brother? That person took out a sweat towel and clean water. As he cleaned up, he said, I'm Li Xingchen. So it's brotherly. Ling Han cupped his hands. Li Xingchen had already cleaned up his face. When Ling Han and little Loli saw him, they both said, oh. This dark-skinned guy was actually a pretty boy. TSK, they really couldn't tell. Little Loli's eyes instantly lit up. Oh, so it's a handsome guy. Handsome guy, do you want some candy? She took out a milk candy and shook it in front of Li Xingchen. Li Xingchen's face couldn't help but darken. I'm not a 3-year-old kid. How dare you trick me with candy? Don't bother with this little guy. Ling Han laughed. Brotherly, I have something to ask you. Li Xingchen wasn't in a good mood. You guys knocked me down and caused me to lose a dermic artifact, and you actually want to ask me about something? No way, I won't do it. Handsome guy, you have to think carefully. Little Loli patted the flying shuttle with her hand, the threat overflowing from her words. Li Xingchen was speechless. Are you really a kid? You're too precocious. He sighed and said, what do you want to know? It was mainly because he found Ling Han pleasing to the eye. Otherwise, he could just turn around and leave. As a cultivator of the immortal path, would he be afraid of two mortals? The place where the power of the 5 elements is the densest. Oh, you want to refine the 5 elements fortune pill? Li Xingchen immediately reacted. Ling Han glanced at little Loli. Fortunately, although this girl was unreliable, she didn't purposely trick him out to play. He nodded. Chapter 3602. Li Xingchen looked deeply at Ling Han, and then said, you really deserve praise for your courage. However, collecting 5 element crystal elements will take an incomparably long time, so you'd better be mentally prepared and set a time limit. I've heard that there was once a genius who spent several hundred years to refine the 5 elements good fortune pill. By the time the pill was refined, he was already old and not far from death. In the end, he ended up benefiting others. Ling Han nodded. Thank you, Brother Li, for the reminder. I'll remember. Li Xingchen gave him a map. It was not made of paper, but an artifact. Infusing it with psychic power, one would enter a 3-dimensional space. Mountains, rivers, seas, everything appeared vividly. I'll give it to you. It's not worth much anyway, he said. Was he mocking Ling Han's stinginess? Ling Han was thick-skinned and pretended not to hear. He was indeed poor now and had a low level. What could he offer to compensate the other? He did have something, but it was too precious. Brother Li, I owe you a favor. Ling Han said seriously. He would not come here only once, but by the second time, he would be on the path to immortality. He might even be at the casting cauldron and Dan-forming realm. Li Xingchen waved his hand. Don't. I'm giving you this map to end the karma between us. From now on, pretend you've never seen me. I don't want to run into you again. With that, he sprang up and ran. Ling Han glanced at the little girl, and the little girl looked back at him. They pointed at each other at the same time. It's all your fault. You scared him away. After saying this, the two of them laughed loudly. Ling Han was thick-skinned, and this little girl's skin was definitely not thin either. Ling Han released the 7 milk babies, and the 9 of them moved together according to the map. The place where they landed was very coincidental. It was only a mere 2 days' journey away from the first place where the power of the 5 elements was the densest. Of course, this was calculated with Ling Han's speed. It was a valley of boiling flames called the Valley of Extreme Flame. In the Extreme Flame Valley, there were many fire creatures created from the essence of fire. They were born because of the Extreme Flame Valley, but they were also bound here, never able to leave. 2 days later, the 9 of them arrived at the place. What a powerful heaven and earth suppression! The little lowly immediately cried out, "I can't even use my Dharma artifacts. Only at the worldly realm can be displayed here." Second baby activated his eye sorcery to take a look. The suppression of the forces of heaven and earth has formed a natural array formation. That's not necessarily true. It's possible that it's man-made, but it must be a grandmaster of arrays. Ling Han nodded. It was precisely because of this that the 5 elements crystal essence became so precious. No matter how high one's realm was, they could only be used as a combat force in the mystery-seeking realm. They could not improve their efficiency at all. Of course, a saint or ancestral king might be able to ignore the suppression of the power of the world, but which saint or ancestral king would do such a thing? Besides, how many saints are there in the world? The ancestral king was an invincible great emperor that only appeared once in an era, so it was even more impossible. That's good too. I don't have to worry about anyone harming me in the valley, he said with a smile. Hit someone. Robbery. The little lowly and the 7 milk babies all raised their arms and cheered, looking extremely excited. Ling Han slapped his forehead with his hand. Was it really the right decision to bring them out? They continued forward, and the suppression of the world grew stronger. It felt like an invisible shackle had been placed on their bodies, but they did not have any substantial change. This was because only those above the celestial path would be truly restricted. They were too weak, and the suppression could be ignored. The Extreme Flame Valley was very big. Before entering the valley, they could already see the scorched earth all around them. It was mainly black, but from time to time, red flames could be seen jumping and flashing. A person appeared in front of them. He staggered over, and when he saw Ling Han's group, he looked pleasantly surprised. He stretched out his hand and said, "Water, water, I want water." Ling Han's gaze swept over and could not help but be shocked. This person was too skinny, as if he was just skin and bones. His eyeballs were about to fall out. He took out a water pouch and handed it over. The person hurriedly drank it after receiving it. The pouch of water was quickly emptied, and the effects were immediately apparent. His shriveled face became rosy again. However, a strange thing also happened. Steam rose from his body, and very quickly his face became shriveled again, as if all the water had evaporated. "Water, I want more water," the person shouted at Ling Han. Ling Han shook his head. This was clearly useless. This person's body should have a powerful flame burning. No matter how much water he drank, it would only evaporate. It would not solve the problem at all. "I said, give me water," the person roared. His eyes were cold and filled with killing intent. Boom! He pounced out and swung his fist at Ling Han. Ling Han casually shook his hand, and the person was sent flying. Below the celestial path, how many people were still his match? Ah! The person screamed. Boom! His entire body turned into a ball of raging flames, burning fiercely. Very quickly, he was burnt to a crisp. Ling Han, he only asked you for some water. You didn't have to burn him to death even if you didn't give it to him. The little girl shook her head and then pondered. Murder and arson, so it means arson to burn someone to death. Ling Han's face darkened. I didn't kill that person, and I didn't set him on fire. The little girl rolled her eyes at him. I'll believe that he spontaneously combusted. Second baby used his eye sorcery to take a look and said, this person has a strong essence of fire in his body. He couldn't suppress it just now, and it exploded from inside out. He instantly burned himself to death. Ling Han nodded and said, look, this is what you call a professional. Learn from him. Second baby laughed. Of course, I can't rule out the possibility that father did it. Fuck, this bunch of idiots. It seems that this extreme flame valley is really a very dangerous place. Ling Han said, that person should have collected the essence of fire in the valley, but in the long battle his body was slowly eroded by the fire poison, and he finally burned himself to death. I'm not afraid, fourth baby said. This place is really comfortable. I hate it. Fifth baby's face was full of disgust. One of them was of the fire attribute, while the other was of the water attribute. They were two completely different feelings. Let's go. The sooner we finish, the sooner we can call it a day. Ling Han brought Milk Baby and the little girl into the valley. Instantly he saw many fire creatures wandering in the valley. Some of them were in the form of beasts, such as mountain goats, tigers, and leopards. Some were in the form of humans, and some were in the form of birds. However, they could only fly a short distance in the air. These fire creatures seemed to have a fixed area of activity and would not cross the boundary. Therefore, even when Ling Han and the others appeared, not a single fire creature attacked them. When Ling Han took a few more steps forward, he saw a fire tiger suddenly pounce on him. Then, Ling Han destroyed it with a punch, and a spark appeared on the ground. Chapter 3604. In such a dangerous place, it was very normal for people to kill each other. Since he had sensed that someone was chasing after him, he would definitely make the first move to gain the upper hand. In Extreme Flame Valley, killing and robbing others of their flame essence was a very common thing. Why would there be a reason? Now that Ling Han had asked this, he didn't know how to answer. He thought for a moment and said, "Little brother, we are on the same side. I also saw the Nanyang Pang family's bounty notice, so I came here to collect flame essence. We are all here to make a living. What happened before was also a misunderstanding." Nanyang Pang family, Ling Han murmured. He grabbed the man and said, "Be more specific." "You don't know?" The man was surprised. "Pa," Ling Han slapped him on the head. "Am I asking you, or are you asking me?" The man gritted his teeth. This hit hurt. But when he saw Ling Han's cold eyes, he could only tell the truth. This Nanyang Pang family was a very strong family. In the past, they had produced a spirit transformation perfected sovereign, but after this ancestor died, the Pang family declined generation by generation. Now, there were only a few life core experts left. But a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. The Pang family was still very rich, and in this generation, the Pang family had produced a genius called Pang Yunfei. In order to raise this outstanding descendant, the Pang family spared no expense to refine the 5 elements fortune pill for Pang Yunfei. Thus, they put out a bounty. As long as one collected enough 5 elements essence, they could exchange it for all kinds of treasures. For example, immortal items, immortal medicines, cultivation methods. As long as one had enough 5 elements essence, they could exchange for them. When the news spread, it naturally attracted many people to the 5 elements land to collect 5 elements essence. Oh, right, other than the Pang family, it seems that the Luo family is also collecting 5 elements essence. The man thought for a moment and squeezed out another piece of information. 2 forces were competing with him for business. Ling Han thought for a moment. Fine, others could rob him, so why couldn't he rob others? There was strength in numbers. In this case, he might only need a few years or even a year to refine the 5 elements fortune pill. Ling Han patted the man's shoulder. "Hand over the flame essence." "That, little brother, haven't I already apologized to you?" the man said with a bitter face. "Flame essence or life? Choose one," Ling Han said calmly. Just now, this person had launched a sneak attack with the intention of killing him. Now, he was just trying to rob him. How broad was his heart? The man had no choice but to hand over the flame essence. "Oh, that's quite a lot." "How long have you been here?" Ling Han asked. 2 years. 2 years? Ling Han shook his head. From the looks of it, the other party's harvest was pitifully small. "You're too lazy. You only managed to get this much in 2 years." The man was speechless. His efficiency was already very high. The flame beasts had fire poison on their bodies, and after a long battle, they would definitely be infected with a trace of fire poison. They had to refine it, or else the fire poison would accumulate and cause serious consequences. It was not impossible for them to be burned alive. Scram, don't let me see you again. Ling Han casually flung the man backwards. He didn't pay him any more attention and continued walking. After a while, a new flame beast appeared. Naturally, it would be killed with a single punch. Ling Han had seen people being burned to death by fire poison before, so he naturally wouldn't be unprepared for it. However, he could kill his enemies with a single punch. Under the attack of the destructive energy, even the fire poison could be easily destroyed. He didn't have to worry about being corroded by the fire poison. As a result, even if someone with similar strength came in, they wouldn't be able to compare to him in terms of efficiency. The more he killed, the more shocked Ling Han became. Just what was the origin of this destructive energy? It was too terrifying. After circling this side cave once, Ling Han once again returned to the main cave and continued to advance. There was more than one person here. Clearly, the bounty offered by the Pang clan or the Luo clan had been effective. Ling Han hadn't even taken a few steps before he was ambushed again. Just like before, he would capture the person, beat them up, and then loot their flame essence. Why didn't he kill them? There was another purpose, and that was to provide wool. If he encountered these people again in the future, he could rob them again and treat them as free labor. After circling all the side caves, Ling Han also robbed more than a dozen people, increasing his harvest dramatically. With the addition of 7 milk babies, he might be able to complete the flame crystal essence step in a few months. He wasn't worried about the milk babies at all. They were all sly and had extraordinary strength. They were the ones who tricked others. After walking for a while, he finally arrived at the bottom of the main cave. Previously, he had robbed many people and obtained some useful information. For example, there was a flame king in every cave. Its strength was far stronger than ordinary fire creatures, and it provided more flame essence. Sometimes, it would even drop something like a fire essence stone, which could gather the power of heaven and earth and speed up cultivation. This was very similar to an ice essence stone. Of course, not every flame king would drop a fire essence stone. It depended on luck. However, no one dared to have any ideas about the flame king. Firstly, the flame king's strength was too strong, and it could sweep through the mystery-seeking realm. Secondly, the flame king could also detonate the fire poison in a martial artist's body. Even if the amount was not enough to kill, how could they withstand such torment in battle? Therefore, everyone only dared to farm monsters in the side caves. As for the main cave, no one dared to ask. Of course, Ling Han wasn't afraid. On the contrary, he was in high spirits. He hadn't cultivated in the past 2 months, so he could use the power of the fire essence stone to catch up with his cultivation. He stepped into the last area of this cave. This was a very large cave, and there was a huge flame monster floating back and forth. In every corner of the cave, there were white bones scattered. Obviously, it wasn't that no one challenged the Flame King, but most of them probably lost their lives. The Flame King also discovered Ling Han at the first moment and immediately raised its hand. Xiao, the fire halberd in its hand, shot toward the little lowly. "Ah, save me!" Tang Yun'er screamed. Ling Han punched out. Pung! The fire halberd instantly shattered. The little lowly was furious. She pointed at the Flame King and said, "Flamehead, why are you hitting the cute, beautiful, obedient, filial, little milk candy?" The Flame King naturally wouldn't pay attention to her. His hands had already condensed another fire halberd, and this time, he threw it at Ling Han. Ling Han punched out again to neutralize the attack, but the Flame King condensed a third fire halberd and threw it over. This attack was really urgent. If it weren't for Ling Han, anyone else might not even have the ability to fight back and would have been shot to death. Ling Han humphed. "You're not done yet?" He opened his mouth and spat out a golden sword, slashing at the Flame King. "You think you can?" Xiao, the golden sword slashed past, and the Flame King didn't dare to be careless. He waved his hand, and raging flames raged. Chapter 3605. The Flame King slapped the golden sword away, but the flame on its hand also dimmed. Evidently, resolving this attack was not as easy as it looked. Handsome, charge. The little girl cheered for Ling Han. He actually dared to sneak an attack on her? How despicable. Ling Han naturally would not allow anyone to attack him. Furthermore, if he attacked from a distance, he would not be able to unleash the power of the destructive energy. He rushed out, wanting to fight the Flame King in close combat. The Flame King was completely fearless, and it also slapped over. Bang! Flames and darkness collided. Both were high-level energies, but even though they were high-level energies, there was a difference in intensity and quality. As the black energy surged, the flames instantly faded. The Flame King was shocked. Its incredibly simple brain only had battle instincts, and it knew that this was disadvantageous to it. It hurriedly retreated, but half of its arm had already completely dimmed, and there were no longer any flames burning. This human was so scary. It reached out its other hand and forcefully pulled at its dimmed left arm. Bang! This arm was torn off, but it was only for an instant. Flames burned fiercely, and its broken arm immediately grew out again. However, if one observed carefully, one would notice that the flames on its body were slightly dimmer. Evidently, it had to pay a price for its broken arm to regrow. This ability would definitely be envied by countless martial artists, because regrowing a broken limb was an ability that only venerables could possess. If one became a saint, even a drop of blood could be regrown, and the tenacity of their life force was simply terrifying. Ling Han was also shocked, but he immediately rushed out again. This time, he would kill the Flame King as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood, not giving it any chance to recover. The Flame King was truly afraid of this human. It reached out its finger and pointed at Ling Han, wanting to detonate the fire poison in his body. However, it immediately revealed a dumbfounded expression, because there were no flames boiling in Ling Han's body. There should be some more or less, right? However, Ling Han had previously killed his enemies with one punch, and with the sweeping destructive energy, what kind of fire poison could invade his body? Since it was the null fire poison, how could it detonate it? The Flame King did not believe it, and pointed at Ling Han again, but there was still no effect. Fortunately, it couldn't speak. If it was pointing and shouting, the scene would be even more awkward. Holy crap! Is this human a monster? The Flame King had a constipated expression on his face. He was going crazy. Ling Han laughed out loud and punched again. The Flame King hurriedly parried, but the destructive energy corroded, and everywhere it touched, the flames dimmed. It was strong enough. Ordinary flame monsters were destroyed with a single punch, but it only dimmed a little. It was worthy of its name as a king. But so what? Ling Han followed up with a few more punches, and the Flame King was like a bonfire that had been doused with water. Very soon, it was completely extinguished. Hang up. Ling Han's gaze swept over and he could not help but sigh. There was only flame essence and no fire essence stones. Forget it, it's just that I don't have the icing on the cake. Besides, there are so many caves here, I'll have to look elsewhere. When he reached the exit, he immediately sensed that there were many people outside. He robbed a dozen people, and now they're here for revenge. Ling Han was completely unconcerned. Cultivation was suppressed here, so even if an elite of the celestial path came, he would still be unafraid. He would still be able to crush him. He strode out and saw about 20 people standing at the entrance, led by a 26 or 27-year-old red-clothed youth. After seeing Ling Han, the red-clothed youth smiled faintly. "My name is Pang Shu, from the Pang family." "And?" asked Ling Han. Pang Shu stared blankly. He didn't know what to say after hearing her reply. He was a little embarrassed and coughed before saying, "I am the person in charge of the Pang family here. All the flame essence you collect must be handed over to me. I will record the quantity for you, and you can go to the Pang family to exchange for what you need." "Oh, this guy thinks I'm an employee of the Pang family," Ling Han said in his heart. "Also, malicious competition is not desirable," said Pang Shu. Pang Shu continued, "Return all the flame essences that you stole and compensate for some of the losses. Then we'll let this matter pass." Seventh young Master Pang is still fair. The others praised. Kid, did you hear what seventh young Master Pang said? Quickly return the flame essence you stole. And compensation? It doesn't have to be much, just double it. These people clamored. The source of their confidence naturally came from Pang Shu. He was a foundation establishment expert. Even if the realm was suppressed here, a foundation establishment expert was still much stronger than a normal secret realm expert. Hey, what are you shouting for? There isn't even a single handsome guy here. Don't you feel embarrassed? Little Lolita said with dissatisfaction. What was wrong with these people? There wasn't even one handsome guy among the 20 people. It was too embarrassing. Ling Han smiled. Are you the person in charge of the Pang family here? Of course. Pang Shu said proudly. He looked down on everyone here. There was a difference between immortals and mortals, but in order to complete the mission he had to be pleasant, which naturally made him very unhappy. Ling Han rubbed his hands. Then you must have a lot of flame essence on you. Wait, why did that sound so awkward? Pang Shu was surprised and frowned. What do you want? Ling Han laughed. Robbery. Flame essence could not be taken out of the valley, so Pang Shu must have a lot of it on him. Pang Shu was stunned at first, then laughed. This young man was really crazy. He actually said he wanted to rob him. When he laughed, the others naturally laughed as well. They all looked like they had met an idiot. It was too funny. A small secret realm dared to threaten a foundation establishment expert. If they knew that Ling Han was actually at the Enlightenment realm, they would be even more surprised. Ling Han did not get angry and laughed with the others. Pang Shu suddenly stopped laughing and said coldly, Don't think that you can be arrogant just because you have some strength. It's just a secret realm. He looked at Ling Han, feeling a little strange. Was this really a secret realm? If they were in the outside world, he would be able to see through Ling Han's background with a single glance. But now that his cultivation level had been suppressed, his eyesight had also weakened considerably. He only felt that Ling Han was slightly unusual, but could not tell what it was exactly. Of course you can be arrogant if you have strength. Ling Han rushed out and punched. Pang Shu showed a look of contempt. A small secret realm dared to attack him? Good, kill one to warn 100. Just as he was about to attack, he felt a huge pressure coming at him. It was as if a primordial terror beast was pressuring him, causing him to be scared out of his wits. With this shock, his movements suddenly slowed down. Bang, Ling Han punched, and Pang Shu was smashed to the ground. His face was deeply smashed into the dry and cracked ground. At this moment, the whole place was quiet, not a single sound could be heard. Chapter 3606. That was Pang Shu, a foundational cultivator, yet he was knocked to the ground by a single punch. How could they believe it? These people had all been taught a lesson by Ling Han and knew he was powerful. But to be able to knock out a foundational cultivator with a single punch was something they could not accept. So powerful that it was unreasonable. Pang Shu struggled to get up. It wasn't that he was no match for Ling Han, but that he was intimidated by the killing intent. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been knocked down by a single punch from Ling Han. However, he had only gotten up halfway when a foot stomped heavily on his back, forcing him back down. He knew it was Ling Han. Damn it, a tiny secret-seeking realm dared to step on his head. You must be tired of living. If this wasn't the Valley of Extreme Flame, he could kill Ling Han with a single breath. Ling Han smiled. Where's the fire essence? Hand it over. Pang Shu ignored him. If he was threatened by Ling Han, would he still have the face to see others? Bang. Ling Han didn't care that the other was a foundational cultivator and immediately threw a punch. Not just a foundational cultivator, even if a spirit transformation cultivator came, he would beat him up. After a few punches, Pang Shu became obedient and obediently handed over a box. Ling Han opened it and saw more than half a box of fire essence. So shabby. He shook his head and put in the fire essence he'd collected. It was more or less a box. The crowd didn't know how much Ling Han had gained in one round and thought he'd robbed others. Naturally, they were all jealous and angry. Ling Han looked around and smiled. What, You want to gang up on me? Go, 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 kill him! Pang Shu roared. He didn't believe they couldn't take down Ling Han with so many people working together. Everyone looked at each other and rushed forward. 20 people against 1. Could they still lose? Ling Han smiled faintly and suddenly unleashed a murderous aura attack. Instantly, everyone stiffened slightly. He then unleashed his thunder-light fists, and his fists rained down like rain. Ping, 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 the figures were instantly sent flying like straw and fell to the ground. In front of him, ganging up on someone was not possible unless the other could withstand his killing intent. Ling Han put away the box and said coolly, "If you want revenge, bring it on. I won't leave until I get the fire essence." Hee, next time, we'll have to find someone more powerful. The little loli made a funny face, then grabbed onto the corner of Ling Han's robe and followed him to another cave. At the scene, there was a wave of wailing, but Ling Han did not hit them too hard. In a short while, everyone had crawled back up while gritting their teeth. Only Pang Shu was still lying there. This guy had been hit hard by Ling Han. Anyways, you're not going to enter the cave to fight monsters, so what's the point of keeping you in good condition? 7th young Master Pang. Everyone hurried to help him up. Pang Shu was lifted up, his face a bloody mess. His face had been stomped into the sand, so it was only natural that his skin had been scraped. His face was ashen. Not only had he been defeated in the secret-seeking realm, but he had also been publicly humiliated and robbed of the Pang family's 3 years of hard work. How could he endure this? Pang Yunfei was the Pang family's genius and future. Whether or not the Pang family could return to its former glory would all depend on him. That was why every member of the Pang family was willing to sacrifice for Pang Yunfei. Only when the family was strong would they be able to go out with confidence. The 5 elements fortune pill was incomparably important and could not be lost. You guys continue to collect the fire essence. I'll find someone to suppress this kid, he said darkly. He was practically going crazy with anger. All right. Everyone could only nod, hoping that the Pang family wouldn't renege on their debt. After all, the fire essence they had handed over had already been recorded. If it was stolen, it was Pang Shu's problem. Pang Shu left. This place suppressed one's cultivation, so it was useless to rely on one's realm. They had to find a genius who was invincible in the same realm. If it's nearby, the Zhang family's 4th son, Zhang Qihua, is a 1-star genius. Alright, let's find him. Ling Han believed that his speed would be much faster than the 7 children. Thus, he didn't wait outside. Instead, he decided to sweep through another cave. He swept through the caves one by one before finally going to find the Flame King. Destructive energy surged, and the Flame King was easily killed. This time, besides the fire essence, there was also a fire essence stone. "Ah, I'm rich." Ling Han laughed. He returned, and when he came out of the cave, he found that eldest baby, 2nd baby, and 3rd baby were already waiting outside. When he asked, he found out that they hadn't been out for long. After a while, 4th baby, 5th baby, and 6th baby also came out one after another. Except for 7th baby. 7th baby was not affected by any power. Logically speaking, she should be the strongest among the 7 children, but with her narcolepsy, it was a different story. The little girl must have fallen asleep in some corner of the cave. Sigh, it was better not to let her go next time. The children's luck was also mixed. Only 2nd baby and 4th baby each obtained a fire essence stone. The others only obtained the fire essence. Ling Han estimated that they would stay here for at most 2 months, and they should be able to gather a piece of fire crystal element. So fast? Didn't they need to wait for 100 years? Firstly, Ling Han and the others had 7.5, so the 7th baby was too unreliable. Secondly, the strength of 7.5 of them was too strong. The milk babies all had innate divine bodies and grasped powerful special abilities, so they were not afraid of fire poison. Once Ling Han's destructive energy was unleashed, even the Flame King would instantly surrender. This was the reason why they could be so efficient. Otherwise, the others would need to refine the fire poison after fighting for a while. Otherwise, they would be burned to ashes. In fact, most of the time was wasted on dispelling the fire poison. Ling Han was in a very good mood. He thought that he would have to fight here for a year or two, but now it seemed that 2 months might be enough. The efficiency had increased by 10 times. Coupled with the fire essence stone, when he returned to Heavenly Starry Sky, he could be sure that he would already be in the Foundation establishment realm. He whistled as he fought the monsters one by one. After the flame monster in the cave was killed, it would take about 5 days for it to be reformed by the heaven and earth. As for the Flame King, it was much slower. At least until now, no new Flame King had appeared. 10 days, half a month, it seemed that the Flame King would not appear again. On this day, Ling Han had just walked out of the cave when he saw a youngster sitting cross-legged on the ground in the valley. There was a sword lying across his lap, and around him, there was a bright flame essence that formed a circle. At this moment, a flame monster condensed out of thin air, not far from the young man. When it was completely formed by the world, it immediately floated toward the young man and launched an attack. Swish, the sword light flashed and the flame monster was immediately cut in half. The flame was immediately extinguished, leaving behind a little bit of shining fire essence. Strong, you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.